A very good morning to one and all present here. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's event titled Rajasthan Sustainable Energy Transformation Dialogues, Deploying Energy Storage and Distributed Solar Energy in the Grid. The event is being hosted by World Resources Institute India and partner organizations including Bask Research Foundation. I am Harish from WRI India's Energy Program and I will be taking you through the agenda for the day. Before we begin this event, I would like to mention it is a hybrid event and we have participants joining online as well. A warm welcome to them too. I want to share some housekeeping rules while we begin. I kindly request everyone to put their mobile phones on silent mode throughout the duration of the event. Please scan the QR codes on your respective tables to access the day's agenda and our research publications. This session is being recorded and live streamed on WRI India's YouTube channel. For those joining online, please keep yourself on mute when not speaking and use the chat box for any technical issues. And for any questions addressed to the panelists during the discussion, would request our online participants to use the Q&A box. With this, I welcome you all once again to today's event where we come together to discuss about pathways to accelerate Rajasthan's clean energy future with integration of energy storage and rooftop solar. As we embark on this enlightening journey, allow me to share a fascinating fact with you. Did you know that India is blessed with an average of 5 to 7 kilowatt-hour of solar irradiation per square meter per day? This equates to over 5,000 trillion kilowatt-hours of energy per year. This staggering figure highlights the immense potential of solar energy in our country. Moreover, Rajasthan has a huge potential of solar energy with favorable climatic conditions and with an irradiation potential of 6 to 6.4 kilowatt-hour per meter square per day, which is the second highest irradiation across the globe. The western desert region of the state have dry climate, very low average rainfall, non-agricultural land and maximum sunshine hours, which provides the potential of generating over 142 gigawatt of clean power, which is more than 3/4 of the country's peak demand of 203 gigawatt as of December 2022. This reinforces the importance of rooftop solar as a key component in the country's transition to a cleaner energy future. With growing prominence of rooftop solar, energy storage has emerged as a crucial component in renewable energy ecosystem. Energy storage systems help balance the intermittency of the renewable energy sources like solar and wind power and ensure the reliable supply of energy. We hope that this event will offer valuable insights and pave the way for a brighter, cleaner and sustainable future. Before we begin, I would like to inform you all, we have just received an update that our distinguished guest, Mr. Bhaskar Atmaram Sawant, Principal Secretary to Government Energy Department, Mr. Ashutosh A.T. Padnakar, IAS, Chairman and Managing Director of Rajasthan Rajya Vidyut Prasaran Nigam Limited and Chairman of Rajasthan Renewable Energy Corporation Limited, and Dr. Artika Shukla, Joint Secretary to Government Energy Department, will be arriving a bit later than expected. However, we will continue with the program as planned until their arrival and adjust the schedule accordingly to ensure a smooth and timely event. So beginning with the inauguration of the event, I would like to invite our distinguished guest on the dais, please. First, I would like to invite Mr. A.K. Gupta, Advisor Energy, Government of Rajasthan. Please. Earlier, served as a Managing Director of Jaipur Vidyut Vitran Nigam Limited. Being a qualified electrical engineer, he has served RSEB Jaipur Discom at multiple levels during his shining experience from 1973 to 2021. He has also served as MD and Director of JVVL. Now, next I would like to invite Mr. M.M. Ranwa, Managing Director, Rajasthan Urja Vikas Nigam Limited. He has exhaustive experience in managing multiple positions in state electric utilities and he has played a role in development of power purchasing wing for the state. Sir is on a phone call, so he will join us in the next 5 minutes. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. Bharat Jairaj, the Executive Director of Energy Program at WRI India. He also leads WRI's Governance Center and co-leads the Global Electricity Governance Initiative. Recently, he has been appointed as a member of United Nations Development Program Advisory Group for Energy Governance. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Rahul Balavalkar, President and Managing Director, Customized Energy Solution, Rahul leads the emerging technologies domain for customized energy solutions globally and has emerged as a thought leader in the areas of energy storage, renewable, EV, and smart grid technologies. Rahul founded the Indian Energy Storage Alliance in 2012 and continued to serve as its president and improving energy storage and e-mobility in India. Finally, I would like to invite Ms. Sandhya Sundararaghavan, Lead Energy Transition of WRI India. She works on developing and supporting progressive policies, technical solutions, strategies for sustainable clean energy transformation. Prior to this, she has worked with CPI, CSTEP, TERI in various capacities. So to begin with, thank you. So to begin with, I would like to call upon Mr. Bharat Jairaj to share the welcome address and set the context for the day. Over to you, Bharat.
Thank you, Harish. Good morning, everyone. We should also have apologized for the delayed start. We were trying to see if some of our senior colleagues from the government who were coming, we could accommodate it, but I think we decided to start now. And as they come in, we'll sort of adjust the schedule. Really glad that we are able to meet again. Some of you have attended the previous two meetings that we have organized over the last year. But let me begin first by welcoming Mr. A.K. Gupta, who's been obviously, needs no introduction in the energy sector in Rajasthan, and currently serves as advisor to the government of Rajasthan on energy. I think Mr. Ranva is still finishing a call outside. And several of you, colleagues from the state utilities, sector experts, researchers, my colleagues from Bask, Simran and Anshuman, from Customized Energy Solutions, Rahul and Sinjan, from CII, colleagues Shiva and IDCG, Aneesh. So we're all sort of come together to share some of our research that we've been doing over this last year, with the idea of supporting, as researchers in civil society and private sector, trying to support the state's policy, the state's ambition, and the state's sort of future in terms of clean energy. Now, in the earlier dialogues, we held two dialogues last year, one in April and one in August, and some of you have attended both of those, some of you attended at least one of those, but we spoke at that time about the barriers that exist in terms of energy transition for the state, and we used the opportunity to actually identify the sort of 2 or 3 key research pieces, gaps, challenges that we could work on. And based on the feedback, we identified these 2 topics that we are going to spend today talking about. The first is energy storage, and the other is distributed renewables, but more specifically on rooftop solar. So these 2 topics is what we're going to focus on. Now, we all know that India has taken on significantly ambitious targets. We have, as of 2030, the ambition is to get to close to 500 gigawatts of non-fossil fuel capacity, to have at least 50% of our energy requirements met through renewables, to reduce cumulative emissions by 1 billion tons, and reduce India's emission intensity of India's GDP by 45%. Now, these are very ambitious, very large efforts, and this is going to require economy-wide transformation, not just what happens at the center or the national government, but more importantly what happens at the states and at the cities, what the private sector does, and generally as citizens and as communities, what we are able to take up. Now, these ambitions I have to also underscore, and we were just sharing informally with Madam Deepti Mathur from JBVNL that that while advanced economies and developed countries have a lot more to do, you don't see them actually doing as much as countries like India. And this is very important for us to underscore, because India is also dealing with basic developmental challenges in some parts of the country. And all of this is a good time to showcase India's leadership, including as part of the G20 presidency. Now, Rajasthan state, of course, is extremely fortunate in that it already contributes close to 17% of India's total renewable energy capacity at more than 21 gigawatts, the highest in the country as of Feb 23. Now, obviously, any direction, any future of India's energy transition will depend significantly on what Rajasthan is able to do. Some states, like Rajasthan, will have to do the heavy pulling, heavy lifting for the rest of the country. Also notable is Rajasthan is probably the only state in the country with 1.5 gigawatt hybrid solar installed capacity. Now, we also have seen studies that indicate that we have just scratched the surface, right? There's close to 142 gigawatts of solar potential in the state. I'd like to just pause to welcome Mr. Ranva to the dais. And so we know that in the sort of large barren deserts of Jaipur, Barmer, Sriganganagar, Bikaner, and so on, there's lots of land and space to build more solar power plants. There's the solar energy policy of 2019 that also sort of tries to create the enabling framework for more investments to come in. And I do believe that the 24-25 target of 24 gigawatts will not only be met, but will be surpassed. And very quickly, I expect that the state will announce a more revised, a higher ambitious target, because, like I said, the states like Rajasthan will be actually leading the efforts of India's energy transition. Just this month, I understand the state saw the signing of close to 87,000 crores of MOUs at the ET Rajasthan Renewable Energy Conclave. So all of this suggests, significant leadership. Now, the challenge, of course, is that installed capacity or increasing installed capacity by itself is not enough. What we have to see for the energy transition is that it needs to convert into actual change in energy consumption. And for that to happen, energy storage is going to be crucial. Why? Because the time that the sun is shining on Rajasthan, it is also shining on the rest of the country. And so there's only that much export that can happen at that time for consumption. Without storage, there is excess power during the day. Storage, of course, can absolutely change that situation. So the two topics we're going to focus on today, the first one is on energy storage, and we would like to use the opportunity, and I think my colleague Rahul will talk a bit about the study itself, but WRI India, Bask Research, and CES undertook a sort of long-term renewable capacity expansion planning study that for evaluating the energy storage requirements in Rajasthan in 2030. Now, the findings are quite interesting, but the one that stood out for me, and I won't talk too much about it, but the one that stood out for me was that no matter what scenario you took, whether it was high or medium or different levels of renewable energy, whatever scale you looked at, the benefits from energy storage investments far outweighed the costs. Also importantly, the overall costs continue to come down as the state takes steps towards energy storage investments. We also did look at, and again I want to So last year when we began the study, we were focusing only on battery storage, and then the feedback we got from state agencies was that you have to also include pumped hydro. And so we did that. We included pumped hydro. And again, irrespective of whether you look at battery storage or pump storage, we do see a reduction in LCOE or in, again, whatever scenario you take. Now, as our study highlights, both battery storage and pump storage can fill complementary and unique roles. So these are not actually either or options. These are and options. In other words, we have to be looking at both pumped hydro and battery storage because they play complementary and unique roles supporting each other. Going forward, we are looking at other storage technologies that can be explored, and I guess my colleague Rahul will speak about that some more. But let me quickly talk about the second topic that we are focusing on today. This is really looking at why rooftop solar hasn't taken off. Now, we all know that of the 100 gigawatts of solar, 40 gigawatts was supposed to come from rooftop. But nowhere in the country has this really taken off. And some, I think Gujarat's the only sort of exception in some ways where there's been significant growth in rooftop solar. And the logic, the rationale, the reason why it hasn't taken off is all well known. We all, it just does not help utility financials. If the prime motivator is net metering and tariffs, then that's a bigger problem for utilities because what we are trying to do is sell power, excess power back to the utility at a time when the utility doesn't need it. And then the utility has to pay for it. So it's a conundrum that has continued to challenge all of us. But having said that, there is no escaping the role that distributed renewables, particularly rooftop solar, can play in India's clean energy transition. So it is a difficult problem, but it is a solvable problem. And we have to collectively put our minds together to try and find ways to address this. I remember last few months ago, talking with the Honorable Chairman of the RERC, and him saying the same thing, that this is difficult, but it's a solvable problem, and we have to collectively identify ways to do this. So we did what have we done? Some of you may know, and outside we have a copy of our earlier report. We did a survey of. In 2018, we did a survey of 5 cities in India to find out what the challenges with rooftop solar are. We actually redid that survey this year along with IDCG, and we did a similar survey of industrial consumers, particularly MSMEs, and that we did with CII. There are lots of interesting insights that we have, and I'm sure many of you will find it useful to pick up. But like I said, some things haven't changed since 2018. And that's an interesting finding, that 5 years later we redid a survey and the results we're getting are exactly the same, particularly on issues of awareness, on issues of finance. For instance, we have found again that subsidies is not a big driver. Subsidies was not a big driver in 2018, it's still not a driver. Whoever has installed rooftop solar in the state, more or less, they have all funded it themselves. So there are some nuggets of such information that are coming out, which is not necessarily how we see it otherwise. Often we think that we need to offer some kind of subsidy and so on. But interestingly, on the MSME side, I think the biggest challenge we found really has been awareness. And again, these are all mechanisms by which we with this evidence we can then determine what sort of strategy and policy that we need to take forward. I don't want to take more time than this. Just let me welcome all of you once again, and I look forward to a rich and useful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat, for the insightful and warm welcome address. So now I would like to call upon Mr. A.K. Gupta, Advisor Energy, Government of Rajasthan, to deliver the special address.
Dignitaries on dais, delegates from WRI and Bask, and esteemed participants. Good morning to you all. I am obliged and happy to be here with you to share something which I want to do. For me, this is not only the subject of SET, that is Sustainable Energy Transformation. For me, or the persons like me having such age, when we passed out our engineering about 50 years back, it is also knowledge transformation. When we used to read out in the colleges, there were only conventional energy and at the most atomic energy. The time has changed. We were not thinking, that time we were, there was a specific subject only, the solar energy. What was that? It was not known to me. At least to me it was not known. In the last such workshop, WRI and Bask, they have given to understand that storage is a must for sustainable energy transition, and for which they were relying upon the battery storage most. And I was of the firm opinion that in comparison to the battery storage, India needs the pump storage also. And I am happy to note that they have included this for this study also and for this dialogue also. I have gone through the document they have going to publish today before you, and it is a very good document. But I have some confusion and doubt of my own that the graphic presentation they have put forth, they have considered the solar energy capacity as RTC. I think it is at RTC, but it is not in fact. Of course, if we support it with the storage, then it could be comparable with the RTC being received from atomic power plant or from hydro or from thermal basically. So that I would like to request the other delegates which are going to deliver their notes to highlight this point. It is very true that battery storage and pump storage and combo of these are the need of the time to harness the solar energy, especially being produced in the state of Rajasthan, which has got the highest insolation level and highest potential in Asia. The third and the important is also there now, that is geothermal energy. You must be knowing about it, but it will take time to be commercialized and to be bundled with the solar energy. So solar energy with hybrid and solar energy with pump storage or the battery storage and other kind of storage is certainly required at this hour. As Mr. Bharat has already said, it is not only the generation from RE, it is equally important how to consume it and how to convert it to the consumption to the stakeholders. Having the sufficient energy, like in the state of Rajasthan, we are about 17 gigawatt solar energy being produced. But how to convert it to be used in at the peak load hours, that is when the solar is not there and RTC is not sufficiently available. So certainly it is required to be bundled with the storage. And which is the storage energy, energy storage fashion, that is battery or the pump storage, which is going to be the least costing for bundling this power and hours required for. Of course, the storage energy which is required to be delivered 4 hours, 6 hours or 8 hours a day, the cost will depend upon the same. So I am here to learn this all, and if I have some doubt or I would have some doubt, I would like to be shared so that I can so that my knowledge can increase. So I welcome this dialogue and will be enlightened if do I get something out of it. Thank you very much, and again I would thanks to all of the organizers team to call me upon here and given this chance to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging address and sharing your insights on our report. Next, I would like to call upon Mr. M.M. Ranva, Managing Director of Rajasthan Urja Vikas Nigam Limited, to share his valuable address.
Good morning, everybody. Distinguished gathering at the dais and all the delegates from WRI, Bask International, and from utilities and power sector. I express my gratitude that I have been given an opportunity to be with you on this occasion. This is the time when we need to discuss about sustainable transformation of energy. The battery storage has been given the best solution for sustaining this energy solution. Why we need the storage? From where this need comes? The only when the issue arises of carbon emission and to save this planet, it was decided to generate electricity from renewable energy sources like wind and solar. As we all know, that inherent character of wind and solar energy is very infirm in nature and they are variable. To replace the conventional power, earlier there was only conventional source of power, and with the time we went into injecting more renewable energy in terms of wind and solar. With the more quantum of renewable energy, we need to stabilize the availability graph. The most economical operation of the grid is when your demand pattern exactly matches with your availability. That is the most economical. Now the question arises how to match this graph. Wind is very invariable in nature, and so the solar is, but solar is slightly stable because it is available during the daytime, but it has also a parabolic curve. So we need to make it a straight line. For that, we need the storage system. This storage supplies us power when there is deviation in the demand and availability. So for the storage, there are two solutions available. One is the pump storage and another is battery storage. Lot of work has been done on both the solutions, but as far as pump storage is concerned, this is location specific. we need to have some certain location where we can set up the pump storage plants. In India, there are only 8 pump storage stations as of now, and they are set up in coastal areas, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Gujarat, in Maharashtra. So out of that 8, only 6 are operational. They are giving the storage capacity. Why this? Because this is location specific. We cannot select, as far as Rajasthan is concerned, I think there is a difficult locations to set up a pump storage plant. So for Rajasthan, the most viable solution, to my understanding, seems to be the battery storage. But again, the lot of research work is going on. The commercial viability of energy made available through battery storage has been still a far-reaching target. Recently, the SECI has done 2 bids for storage. The participants were Renew Power and Greenco. So the peak power tariff that was 6.85, it's more than 6 rupees. So the commercial viability, actually what we need to do is we need to understand that affordability of our consumer is very important when we create any solution to provide sustainable transition, sustainable transformation of energy. So this is a very good efforts being taken by WRI and Bask International, and lot of work need to be done. So we need to keep on discussing, keep on doing brainstorming, and to find out a viable, economical viable solution which can provide us a stable and sustainable source of energy. So I thank you all, and I thank the organizers. They gave me the opportunity to participate and to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable address. I would now like to request our guests to release the joint report titled Estimating Energy Storage Requirement for Rajasthan Grid by 2030, authored by experts from WRI India, Customized Energy Solution, and Bask Research Foundation, to support the Government of Rajasthan along with state regulators, state power utilities, and system operators in this transition. WRI India, CES, and Bask Research undertook a long-term renewable capacity expansion planning study till 2030, aiming renewable energy integration plan with support of BESS at grid level in Rajasthan. I would request you to please launch the reports. May I also invite co-authors of this paper onto the stage, please. Mr. Sinjan Patak, Mr. Himanshu Tyagi, Mr. Simran Grover, and Mr. Hanshuman Gotwal. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Rahul Valavalkar, President and Managing Director, Customized Energy Solution, to share his address.
So first first of all, I'd like to thank WRI for this wonderful partnership in trying to go deeper in terms of the state level requirements of energy storage. As most of you are aware, India Energy Storage Alliance was founded in 2012 to create awareness about energy storage, and we have been working with central government, MNRE, MOP, CA, CRC since 2013. But then around 5 years back, we decided that there was enough interest and activities happening at a central level, but we needed to now take the dialogue at the state level where majority of the action is required, because ultimately electricity is a dual jurisdiction. And that's where, again, it has been a wonderful partnership over the last 5 years with WRI in looking at multiple states. And we also thank all the state officials from state of Rajasthan. First of all, I'd like to congratulate for the rapid growth of renewables which Rajasthan has achieved. It's a great success story. And it is really heartening to see that now in the coming years, the roadmap is to continue this growth and retain this leadership at the national level. So once again, I'd like to thank all the officials from the various utilities as well as state government for taking this leadership. Now, in terms of energy storage, we do see RE and storage definitely makes a lot of sense around the globe. We even had examples where energy storage has also been combined with fossil fuel resources, and it has been integrated successfully for optimizing system costs. So as part of this study, we have looked at taking a system level approach to try to see how to optimize the system level cost. Obviously, there is one more level of optimization which would be required, where you look at different business models, you look at different entities who are investing into storage. So we look forward to getting feedback from all of you for this study, and look forward to continuing and helping individual entities who are looking at actually deploying this RE plus storage assets in state of Rajasthan. Can we have the presentation? Sure. So again, as I mentioned already in the introduction, it has been really great to see the amazing growth. Particularly solar has been growing much rapidly, and what we understand from the various stakeholder discussions which were carried out during the course of this study is that that's the same trend which is expected to continue. Here is a 2022 scenario where you are seeing that in terms of the installed capacity, wind plus solar has already crossed 50% in terms of the installed capacity, whereas in terms of the energy, you are looking at somewhere little more than 30% coming from solar and wind. And this trend is going to continue in future. Right now, still more than 50% of the energy is coming from coal, but going forward, that may change slightly. So in terms of looking at the future scenario, especially looking at 2030, what we looked at is that what are the state regulators have already announced in terms of the plan, where we are looking at deployment of around 24 gigawatt of solar, as well as 5.3 gigawatt of wind. And then we are looking at also various MOUs which have been signed by various private entities and solar developers for deployment of solar in Rajasthan by 2030, which based on the public information is more than 40 gigawatt. So looking at both these scenarios, we looked at different targets. So one has a high RE scenario where we are getting closer to this 40 gigawatt target. We looked at also a pessimistic scenario where some of the targets which are announced for 2025, they are delayed and they are met by 2030. And then there is a additional couple of scenarios we have looked at. In terms of optimization, for sake of this study, we used a public model called PIPSA, where we have created a single node model. So again, this is there needs to be additional work done when you locate individual projects, and based on the location, you may need to improve the model further. But at a high level, this model provides a good analysis in terms of the economic merit order dispatch and how various generation sources will be optimized. We also basically mainly looked at the transmission scenarios as a standard input. So right now, during this stage, we have not really optimized storage for optimizing transmission investment, but we have taken 3 scenarios in terms of how much new transmission will be built for supporting all the RE which is coming in, mainly solar, where majority of the solar deployment which is happening in Rajasthan is specifically geared for exporting. So it is connected to either ISTS lines or it has a dedicated transmission corridor. So we have right now taken that as one of the standard input, but then as a next phase, if there is an interest, we may also look at optimizing the transmission investment and looking at the trade-off between transmission versus storage investments as a additional analysis. So the 3 scenarios which are looked at is low RE, optimal renewable energy deployment, and high RE growth. In first 2 scenarios, we have looked at around 19 gigawatt of export capacity to be made available, and in the high RE scenario, as a base case, we have looked at 25 gigawatt export capacity. We also looked at what would happen if you increase the transmission capacity to 35 or 45 gigawatt, in which case obviously the amount of storage which is required in the system goes down. So in case of a high RE scenario with 25 gigawatt of export capacity, you may need as much as 34.5 gigawatt hour of energy storage, whereas if you are increasing the transmission export capacity to 45 gigawatt, then you would need only around 5.3 gigawatt hour of storage. But when you do that, you need to consider that majority of the transmission capacity, if it is getting built primarily just for exporting solar, then that is going to get used only for maybe 3 to 4 hours at its peak capacity during any given day. And considering some of the seasonal variability within the solar irradiation as well, you may actually use the top maybe 15-20% of the capacity only for maybe few hundred days a year and not throughout the year. So you are ultimately going to build a lot of transmission capacity, and you'll have to consider those costs only for those RE deployment. So now, in terms of all these 3 scenarios, assuming that you are making transmission investment as a standard input and you are not optimizing transmission versus storage, sorry. What we found out as Bharat mentioned, in every scenario with storage added to the system, you are able to actually get more renewable energy out of the existing RE installation, and the overall system level costs were lower in every scenario, be it 25 gigawatt transmission, 35 gigawatt transmission, or higher transmission capacity. Here is also analysis in terms of within 2 scenarios. As Mr. Gupta mentioned, the state officials requested us to consider also pumped hydro as part of it. So we have looked at 2 scenarios. In one case where primarily you are deploying only battery energy storage, and in other case you are deploying pumped hydro which could be used for 6-hour or longer duration storage, and then you are using batteries for primarily 1 or 4-hour storage deployment. So again, based on the cost minimization approach, we get different numbers. In case of battery only capacity, we are looking at somewhere around 19 gigawatt hour of storage deployment as an optimal deployment. If you are adding long duration storage with pumped hydro, you are increasing the amount of energy capacity which can be stored to almost around 31.3 gigawatt hour. And in both the cases, how the generation mix changes, that is showed on the bar chart on the left hand side. Please just note that these are percentage changes in terms of how the different resources are there. So we are not necessarily saying that, for example, in case of scenario with more energy storage deployment in terms of pumped hydro, wind energy is not getting curtailed, but just that because more solar energy is being stored and utilized, the share of the solar as a percentage in terms of the generation mix is increasing, and that's where some of the other resources are being utilized less. Now, here is a recent comparison of 2 projects. One is with Greenco, which is a pumped hydro, and another one is SECI tender for battery energy storage for 500 megawatt solar. So at a high level, as Mr. Gupta said, the numbers suggest that battery energy storage right now is a costlier alternative to pumped hydro. But again, you need to consider that in one case, you are deploying only 2 hours of storage. So in terms of the amount of total cost which you are incurring is less, versus in other cases, you are deploying 6 hours of storage. And the critical part which we need to see, and again, I'm hopeful that we are learning from some of the experiences of building pumped hydro in past, whereas it was mentioned out of the 8 pumped hydro facilities which are built, only around out of the 5 gigawatt, 3 gigawatt is currently operational in pumping mode, and that too is not necessarily optimized where it is not used at a full capacity on a daily basis. So in terms of the energy throughput, right now in this model, the assumption is the pumped hydro facility is getting used for full 6 hours every day of the year for 35 years. And considering that, it is a cheaper, but we need to very closely monitor if in the real operating scenario, we are able to operate pumped hydro in a similar case, or if there is going to be a impact on tariff. The other aspect which I would like you to consider is that right now, based on the 2022 cost, where there is almost around 30 to 35% cost for battery energy storage, which is in terms of the import duties and GST and taxes, it looks like pumped hydro is more economical for anything which is more than 4 hours of storage. But there are changes which are happening at the central policy where some of the import duties are getting changed, as well as there is a 50 gigawatt hour domestic battery manufacturing PLI which has released. So in next 2 or 3 years, we are going to get domestically produced batteries which may have lower cost than the imported batteries, including the import duties. So we will need to relook at this cost, and right now our expectation is not considering any reductions in duties and taxes, just based on the improved performance as well as improved manufacturing scale and cost reduction which is expected by 2030. Battery energy storage may be economical for up to 6 hours of storage against pumped hydro, because in pumped hydro, more or less the costs are fixed. In fact, there may be slight inflationary pressure because a lot of concrete and other construction material where there is no expected cost reduction, unlike in batteries where there is a scale of manufacturing will reduce the cost. So those some of those factors I think we need to relook in terms of how these scenarios are developing. But good part is what this study suggests is that there is opportunity for both the technologies to be deployed, and we are happy that I think Greenco has already identified at least 1 or 2 sites in Rajasthan. So if they are able to develop those sites, and these can be developed fast, like what they are doing right now with one of their projects in Telangana, where they are deploying it almost in 3 years of time, which is almost a record, considering some of the past pumped hydro projects have taken almost 15-20 years for construction. So if we can do these off-the-river pumped hydro projects in a faster way, then that can present a very good alternate option for states in a short term till we can scale up the domestic battery manufacturing industry. So in terms of some of the key takeaways, as Bharat mentioned, we found out that in every scenario, storage deployment reduces system level cost. We do see that in terms of the transmission planning, how much transmission you are building will have a significant impact on how much storage you can deploy economically. And again, as I mentioned in this study, we have not looked at trade-off in terms of the transmission cost versus how that cost is being allocated. So that may change some of the numbers more in favor of energy storage, but that can be considered as a follow-up discussion. Pumped hydro and battery storage can have a complementary role. In the analysis, it suggested that if you are deploying more pumped hydro, then you may need shorter duration storage as a 1 hour storage as a mainly balancing storage in the grid. Whereas if you are deploying primarily only battery storage, then you may be looking at 2 and 4 hours as a primary sizing for battery energy storage to provide more flexibility to the grid. here are some additional information in terms of other ESS tenders which have been recently released. So one is NTPC for 500 megawatt, 3 gigawatt hour. This tender was again won by pumped hydro, considering this was a 6-hour storage. So this is consistent with the analysis and results of the modeling. And there is another tender for 500 megawatt, 1 gigawatt hour, which is currently under bidding, and we are looking at, sorry, this tender was won by JSW for using battery energy storage. So in terms of both these tenders, again, right now the costs are on a slightly higher side, but considering the experience what we have had with solar, where with solar also we started with a similar thing where initial solar deployment we were looking at almost 13 to 15 rupees per kilowatt hour cost, but as the deployment started increasing, as we started optimizing on the project cost as well as operational cost, the prices have come down. We do expect that if we start deploying these storage projects along with RE, we will see similar trajectory for reduction of the cost. One other aspect is that if you start looking at RE plus storage, I agree with Mr. Gupta that right now I think we are nowhere close to the RTC requirement, but at the same time, if you see load shape for almost every state, we do not really need more RTC power. What we need is we need actually firm renewable power, which has 4 to 6 hours of flexibility. And if you consider as a combined cost of RE, which is flexible, that is, it is giving 4 to 6 hours of flexibility where you can use it either for morning couple of hours for peak as well as evening few hours for peak, then you can definitely get RE plus storage tenders as a combined tender for somewhere around 5 to 6 rupees per kilowatt hour, which is, I think, a affordable price considering all the other costs, including transmission and other things which we are anyway paying. So with that, I would like to again thank all the stakeholders who participated in this study and provided your valuable input. As you go through the study, again, if you have any suggestions or if you have any questions where more clarity is required, please do let WRI team or CES team know, and we will be happy to address those questions in subsequent discussions. Also, I'd like to take an opportunity to invite all of you to join us in May 1st week in New Delhi. On 3rd of May is a Foundation Day for India Energy Storage Alliance, and we are celebrating a week-long event called India Energy Storage Week, where on 1st May we will have a series of detailed hands-on workshops. 2nd May is a dedicated conference on stationary storage. 3rd May is a conference on manufacturing and supply chain. 4th May on e-mobility, and 5th May on green hydrogen. So again, we would love to host you in Delhi for this event to take the dialogue further. So once again, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Rahul, for summarizing the report and sharing the key takeaways with a brief presentation. I would now like to request our distinguished speakers on the dais to please stand for a group photograph. Huh? That's fine, that's fine. Thank you. So to conclude, I would now like to invite my colleague, Ms. Sandhya Sundarragavan, to provide the vote of thanks for the inaugural session.
Thank you so much, Harish. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing your presence today. Would like to first thank Gupta, sir, for sharing his insight, especially on the fact that the solar energy with hybrid is going to be, it's going to play a key role. And it is not just generation from renewable systems, but how we can convert it in such a way that it's more consumable. And I think it's extremely important, sir, that you mentioned that how to use this solar power that we have right now. It's around, in peak load hours, especially when the RTC is, the round-the-clock power is not available. and solar has to be bundled with storage at some point of time. Would like to thank Ranva sir, to also share his thought that battery storage is going to be one of the best solutions, and especially considering the inherent character of wind and solar because it's variable in nature. It's going to play a very key role, especially when there is more quantum of renewable energy in the system. One of the important things that sir also mentioned is affordability is important when we create solutions for sustainable energy transformation, and that's why we need stable and sustainable sources of energy. Would like to thank Mr. Rahul for sharing his insights on our study. One of the things that came across was that storage reduces the system level costs. We also saw that battery and pumped hydro can coexist. So RE power is not just about the RTC power, but it's also about having those 4 to 6 hours of flexibility to meet the morning and evening peak. Finally, I would like to thank Mr. Bharat Jayaraj for setting the context. And I would also like to thank the entire team, WRI from WRI India, from Customized Energy Solutions and Bask Research Foundation for helping us in this report, in the study, and for helping in this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for a very enriching morning session. We will now break for 10 to 15 minutes for tea and coffee. Please grab your cups and make yourselves comfortable. We will begin our next session at 11:50. Thank you. Let them. Requesting everyone please take their seats. We'll begin in next 5 minutes. Yeah. So hope you all had a very refreshing break. We will now begin with our second session on distributed solar, potential and challenges for consumers of Rajasthan. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Tirthankar Mandal, Head of Energy Policy in Energy Program at World Resources Institute, India, to present on solar rooftop survey in 5 cities in Rajasthan and highlight the findings.
Yeah. So before I actually start, can I have just to give you a background. So as in the earlier session, we all heard that we actually conducted a survey of 5 cities across India that time, almost covering more than 1,800 household respondents. And then we understood that there are certain challenges and there are also opportunities to do certain things in a different way for the policymakers as well as the actors in the domain. Now we again conducted this survey, but this time not in all the different geographies, but one state, and then we selected 5 cities within that state, and that is Rajasthan here, primarily because it has almost, as we all know, it is the one of the leading states in India as we are talking today in terms of energy, renewable energy capacity addition. So we just wanted to understand how they are performing or how the state is performing on the distributed, particularly on the rooftop solar. And I'm not getting into the story around rooftop solar. We all know about it because it hasn't taken up. Can we have the presentation? So it hasn't actually taken up the way it was supposed to be, and that is one of the prime reason to understand, even for a RE-rich state like Rajasthan, how are the things moving over here, or what are the different aspects of this sector which actually opens up new opportunities to work on. Now in the first 2 boxes are actually talking about the overall scenario. So we have almost like now 8 gigawatts of installed capacity as against 40 gigawatts. And now this has already been extended to 2026 in the phase 2 of the MNRE program. And particularly in Rajasthan, as of February, the solar rooftop capacity stands at 800 megawatt, including all sectors, not just the residential and all. And then we also have the various facilitative policies, which are like net metering and then other facilitative policies. But here, one of the major things that is happened in the net metering part, at least as far the RERC guidelines are considered, or RERC orders has been considered, is that the government has actually moved away from the APPC based pricing of the net metering to a fixed rate. And there are reasons to it, and there are very good reasons to it for moving away from it. The other reason, and then we actually, the green boxes are because why we actually undertook this survey, and I'm not getting into the details, but primarily to understand, as I said, how things have changed and what are the opportunities that lie there going forward from here. That's why we selected 5 districts in Rajasthan, which are distributed among all the 3 discoms over here, and it covers the large city like Jaipur, and also like there are cities like Udaipur and Jodhpur, which are mostly like the tourist places, and there are installations in the different institutions as well. So by institutions, we are basically covering the hotels, the educational institutions, which covers the training institutes and other sorts of institutes, then the nursing homes and other sorts of institutions, because they are also a large consumers of big loads from the grid suppliers. So this is about, just to give you an update, flavor, who is actually adopting solar. And so primarily the main point is that if you go to the bottom of the of this bottom graph of this slide or bottom figure of this slide, it actually shows that it is the health segment in the institutions who are going for solar the most. And the reason could be, we are still exploring what are the reasons, and this is all in the middle of our analysis, but these are the initial findings, or at least the major findings which we are coming up with. So they are the ones primarily because they of two things. One is that the reliability, at least during the daytime, the solar rooftop provides a better reliability rather than the grid connected system. And that is one of the prime reason, could be one of the prime reason why the health sectors is moving towards rooftop solar so progressively than the other segments of the institutional categories. And then the most size of the installations are actually lying between around 6 to 10 kilowatts or that whereabouts. And this actually is pointing towards the fact that customers are interested to go big on solar, particularly in the institutional category. Now, in the households again, you will see that those who have actually, we have surveyed, so the survey size was around 400 among these 5 cities, covering both the institutions and the households. So among those 400, and a sizable number, almost 50% of them were actually households. So within that 50% category of people, most of them has actually gone for installation. And then there is a sizable amount which is around between 10 to 15%, which we call is at fence sitters, these people are the ones who are thinking to go for it, but haven't yet decided for the installations for various reasons. And again, here also, the most installed size actually ranges from beyond 3 to actually around 10 or 15 kilowatt. I can't see the figures over here, but it is around that range. So this actually points to the fact that which Bharat actually alluded to, is that subsidies are only till the highest number. So subsidies are progressively decreasing as you go up your size. But here subsidies is clearly not a deterrent over here. So this is one of the aspects of the study which we are trying to see. And then we try to find out why an institutions or an institutional category of consumers are actually going for solar. So primarily there are 3 reasons. One is the economic reasons, one is the environment reasons, and the other one is the peer effect. And the reason why there is an agreement among the set of consumers whether they have agreed to go for solar or not agreed to go for solar, everybody agrees that solar is good for environment. Now, if we actually combine all these 3 and take a overview of why it's mostly coming out that there is a strong peer effect as well as economic sense which is actually pushing them to go for solar. So environment is a reason, but mostly in practical sense it is the peer effect and the economic reasons why they are going for solar. Similarly, for the households, the peer effect is much larger, because the reason for that is because the information which I'm going to come from in my subsequent slides is that the information about different aspects of solar, the way they have installed, how much energy they are or how much bill they are saving on the monthly level, at month by month level, these informations they are all getting either from friends, relatives who have already installed solar, and that is a very huge motivational force for at least for the household sectors. I'm not saying that environment is not important, but peer effect and the economic consideration. Economic consideration is basically the amount that they are saving on the bill. So before the installations, the category of consumers whom we have surveyed, their monthly bill was is ranging between 5,000 to 20,000, while when we installed it, after installation, there is a significant reduction in the billing. So that 5,000 to 20,000 range, which was around 72% of the population of these respondents in the household category, they have actually shifted. Their billing has reduced between the range of 1,000 to 5,000 rupees, which actually amounts to almost 65% or 63% of the population who have seen this kind of reduction. So it's clear a very motivational force. Now, so it's about how are they going for solar. So it's mostly vendor driven. It's across the board, everybody is actually saying that we have gone about solar by the help of vendor. So, and in the process, when vendor is the main entity, how they are going to select? Mostly they are talking to 1 or 2 vendors and selecting out of it. Hardly actually they talk about more than 3. So this is among the institutional category. And then the other segment of the population, what is important for them is that how they are their ease of service. So basically how they themselves are getting involved in the installation process. So mostly it is the vendor who takes care of everything, and it's just a transactional relationship. You come, you basically agree for it, and that's it. Close the chapter, and once everything is done, you just get the solar. So the processes in between, that has been taken care of by the vendor, which is a major beneficiary or major plus point for taking this course of vendor-driven services. Same as the household category of consumers, it's mostly driven by vendor, and they talk to 1 or 2. And again, in the household category, because there is a strong peer effect, it is almost the reference factor is very vital over here. So those who have already installed, they are basically saying that which is the vendor they should go to, and which are the good vendors within the market, and so on and so forth. So there is a strong peer effect which is also underlying all these things. Now, in the institutional category, there is other factor which is the financing, and most of them are actually getting self-finance. That's the primary thing, and not many are actually getting for subsidies or looking for their subsidies, what are the kind of subsidies available, or that for that matter loans available. One of the primary reason is that the way loans are being calculated in the branches or in the NBFCs, first of all, they are pretty high than the existing rates, right? It almost not as high as the credit card loans or something like that, but it is pretty high in the 12-digit factor. And the way they calculate the loan, so it's 3.4 rupees, 3.14 is your net metering benefit that you can get. But the tariffs differ from DISCOM to DISCOMs. That is not taken into account while calculating the loan disbursement or loan calculations and so on and so forth. And for that, the return they will get, or the security, the investment they are making and the return they will get, that time varies a lot by these DISCOMs and all of those things. So that is a major challenge over here, for a reason why they are not going for loans and all, for at least for the institutional. Same over here for the household sectors as well. But for the households, I want to just mention over here is that you have seen I have just mentioned what category or how much is the billing expenditures before they have actually gone for solar. It's pretty high. That means these are the households, they have deep pockets, and they are the first movers in this segment. So the challenge and that is probably one of the reasons for them that the transactional cost of going to get the subsidy done, the paperwork's done, is very high as opposed to just self-finance. Because ultimately, even if you install a 6 kilowatt or a 7 kilowatt system, the first 3 kilowatts actually gets a 40%, and then subsequently it gets reduced as you go up the system installation. So that way you can have a major portion of your subsidies, the vendor can offset it from the price. Now, if that is the case, they just want to pay the extra amount or the difference and just get out of it, or just freeze it there, rather than going to loans and other things. And also on the loans part, what we found out in our earlier survey, and that is also existing, is that once you go for this solar kind of loans, the banks, because the solar PV doesn't have a secondary market, they actually ask for collaterals, and those collaterals are sometimes doesn't match with the cost and the collaterals that they are asking. Sometimes they ask the full papers of the houses and all, which is which is not liked by these people at all. So that is why there are multiple reasons. We are still studying it, but those are one of the few reasons which they actually reasons why they are not going for loans or other kinds of institutional financing. Now, coming back to the challenges. So these are the kinds of what are the factors that has lead to whatever progress that the state has made in these 5 cities. One of the main challenges that has come up with, and this last one, which last big in the last left-hand corner of the slides actually show, is that it's the multiple visits to different government offices, particularly the DISCOM and the lower level of the DISCOM officials. You have to make multiple visits, which is actually a detrimental way, which is actually limiting the uptake, as well as for the institutional category of consumers. The regulations and policies are pretty complex, right? The way the tariff designs and other things that have been advocated time and again, that is a very complex way, as at least that is the perception that they are telling about. So it's really not very adopter friendly ways which are being followed in this case, and that is one of the areas where we actually need to work more on it. And for the other challenges, there are basically the information, and in information there are 2 or 3 categories of information. First of the types of information is what is exactly the information required for making a decision to go for solar or not go for solar. That information is lacking, and pretty much it boils down to the fact that how much square feet of an area is required for generating 1 unit of solar or 1 unit of solar power. So and nowhere there is this kind of information available. It all depends on what the vendors say and hearsay of the vendors or the service providers who are providing that one. So it's actually boils down to that kind of information. Then the second set of information is basically access related. Where do we get the loans, or what are the rates of loans? Why these loans vary by different banks, charges different loans, and why this varies so much. And the third set of information is related to the vendor service, because again, there is a lot of peer pressure and other things which are involved in it. You don't have a very formalized way of assessing a vendor service. Whatever they come, and it all goes by word of mouth and non-formal ways of communication. That is why you will see there is also a trust issue that is related to the vendor service, which is very high component of making a decision to go for solar or not go for solar. In the bottom of the slide, bottom graph that is shown in this slide. So almost the same situation that is there in the household segment as well. So there is trust issues is there, and then where to go for this information and all of those things, those are there. But this is particularly about the DISCOMs. They are also not very they're also agreeing to the fact that they have to, if they take up solar as their own way to get it installed, they have to make multiple visits. So one of the ways to avoid that is to choose a vendor and just hand over everything to him, and he take care of everything. So that is one of the challenges that we find, that where work can be done and it can be simplified, the way to install it and all of those things. similar sort of inferences or similar sort of findings for the other segments regarding information, the vendor selection and all of those things. And then I come to just to summarize, what are the major things that we are observing? As I said, this is still a fast mover. Now the challenge over here is that at a time when there will be a time when all these independent households will be exhausted with their roofs, even if you go for 100% solarization of these independent households. The majority of the segment that lies the middle income and the lower income segment, how are we facilitating the adoption for this segment, which is a big segment and which can actually unlock the solar potential, and the sector can move very fast if we can unlock it, both for the MSMEs as well as for MSMEs. It will be that group of companies or firms which are not at the highest level of their turnovers, but relatively in the middle or lower middle income of the lower middle class of the turnover segment, how they can be motivated. And then predominantly self-finance, but we all know that subsidies and loans are always there. So how do we actually use those different kinds of financing options, because that can actually play a big part in unlocking the other segments as well. And then the vendors. So because it is predominantly a vendor driven, how do we instill some kind of quality check on them? Because so one vendor providing a bad service actually can destroy the whole thing, because it can act as a snowballing effect for the whole sector, or at least in the community, or at least in the locality where it is going there. So it can actually be negative force if the vendor doesn't provide a good service. So there is very important that some markers, while empanelment is being done and whatever formalization processes are being carried out, we actually take care of this service part of it, because what the empanelment generally takes care is about their physical strength of making this happen, but these soft parts are often missed out. And then sorry, I was talking about the information. So what kind of information? Right sets of information needs to be provided to the consumers, both from the institutions as well as the household segments. So what are the opportunities where we need to work on? First and foremost, out of these 5, 3 are related to the DISCOMs and the policymakers, because that is a major area where we feel is a huge opportunity to work towards unlocking this sector. Because one of the major trend and one of the major difficulty that most of the DISCOMs today in India is facing is that the way net metering has been priced, it is always priced in the APPC based, and there is a gap between APPC as well as the falling prices of solar, and that gap is increasing day by day. There has to be a way to actually close this gap. Otherwise, the DISCOMs won't go of their own and actually promote solar, because that is a net revenue loss for them. That is a huge area of work. And over here, what we feel is that the new rules like green tariff and other mix, and combining them with the TOD and various other means of innovative mechanisms for tariff designs can actually help a better way of pricing the solar that the consumers is going to put into the grid or generate for itself to consume. Information access, again, DISCOMs actually can play a role. I would not limit it to the DISCOMs only, but it is also to the energy department and other policymakers to actually step in over here, because that way a standardized set of information can go out. Also, we need to engage with the RWAs and the vendors as well, just to encourage them to provide the right set of information rather than providing misinformation. Right set of information about the solar sector is, because you have to understand from the consumer's perspective, because it is not like going to the shop and buying a cycle or a TV. It's actually a different commodity or a different class of user service which nobody knows, and very technical one. So, and also on the top of it, it doesn't have a secondary market as well. So various things are considered while a person is going for installing solar in his house. Financing, as I said, is the main component of financing over here. Why the loans are so high is because it is the de-risking part. How we can de-risk that solar loan primarily. That is the main factor which is actually limiting the people from uptake. Once you can de-risk that part, there is a high chance that the middle income and that segment that I was talking about, they can actually access and probably explore the ways and means. And also, if you actually connect it with the ways of aggregated demand aggregation models of solar rooftop, then it can actually open up a huge array of opportunities and huge array of loan designing as well, because you have the scale and the way it works generally is that you have a middle person or middle entity who can take the cushioning and give the loans to both to the consumers at a rate which is feasible, as well as the banks and other financial institutions are also happy to get into that segment. And then the ownership of the DISCOMs, whether the DISCOMs can directly own the systems on the consumers' premises, because that can actually take out this whole financing related risk and various other risks, and then charge the owners according to the generation on their bill. So net billing or some kind of those concept can be introduced, by which the consumers need not be paying the capex or the upfront money that is required, both for the institutionals and the residential ones, but they can actually go for just servicing the billing expenses what is there. And policy and regulation is more primarily to actually make it consumer friendly. Can we actually make it simple and comprehensible? Because if you go to the directives of the phase 2, there are 7 or 8 points which have been asked by the emanatory from the emanatory to the state governments about how to make it solar more friendlier. But it's not just only the responsibility of the state government. The emanatory has also to come forward, because time and again they are the ones who are changing the rules of the games. And if one rule has been changed, there is a gap between how do you comprehend that rule, or how do you actually infer what is being said on that rule, and how do you implement it. That gap needs to go. Somewhere down the line, it's a mix of capacity and mix of intention and will as well. So I'll stop over here and open for more conversations during the panel discussion.
Thank you, Tirthankar, for the brief presentation that highlights the key findings on the solar rooftop survey. Next, I would like to invite Lalit Sharma, Senior Project Associate with WRI India Energy Program, to present the survey analysis on industrial renewable energy adoption. Lalit works on the industrial decarbonization, mainly focusing on MSME and hard-to-abate sector like cement, iron, and steel across India. And the presentation will be supported by Mr. S. Sivagurunathan, Councillor, Confederation of Indian Industries, Green Building Center. His work focuses on renewable energy initiatives and supporting industry in their net zero journey. He is also a BE certified energy auditor.
Thank you, Harish. So, hello and good afternoon, everyone. So, firstly, I would like to welcome you all for the SET Rajasthan Dialogue. So, can we have the presentation also? So, in SET Rajasthan project, there is an assignment which is we have to do the survey in industrial and commercial sector. So, with the support of CII, we have conducted the survey, and in this presentation, I will show you the analysis of survey and the inferences of that survey. So, yeah. So type of consumers, so 70 consumers we have to reach out for this survey. So 70 consumers have filled this survey, and the industrial are almost 64% and commercial are 36%. In industrial sector, there are cement, mining, so cement, mining and the textile industries have filled the survey, and also some MSME also filled this survey. And the commercial sector, there are hospitality, restaurants, and some real estate have filled the survey. So to analyze the survey, so we have segregate the connected load into the classes. So classes is kind of the, you can say connected load. So we have the connected load 10 kilowatt to 14 megawatt in class 1. So almost 91% consumers are live in class 1 who are having connected load with the range of 0.01 megawatt to 14 megawatt. So other 20 megawatts, of course, the cement, mining, other industries are having the huge load. So that's why these are on the other classes. So into the deep dive into the analysis, so we have segregate class 1 into the class A to know how much consumers are lies in between class 1. So in class A, you can see 64% industries are in class A. The range of that class is 0.01 megawatt to 0.93 megawatt. So the metal and the restaurant are the major consumer which lies in class A. So around 33% consumer which is categorized qualify for the open access over the traditional limit of 1 megawatt. So again, we have segregated the class A into class small a. So in this, you can see 64% of consumer are having 10 to 100 kilowatt, and which is 27 consumers. So they are not qualify for the open access because we have to, as per Ministry of Power rule, the green energy open access is above 1 megawatt. Sorry, 100 kilowatt. So in this, you can see 22% of the consumer qualify for the green energy open access as per the new rule of Ministry of Power. And of course, we have the data range of 10 to 93,000 kilowatts. So of course, the cement industry has the major load. So the energy consumption also have the taken care by the cement industry. So 87% you can see the energy consumption is taken care by the cement industry. That is the figure for the financial year 21-22. Other than this, the chemical, mining and the other industries also very high energy intensive, you can see in this graph. So chemical took 4.3%, and restaurant and the real estate also having the 1.2% energy consumption in last financial year of 21-22. So coming to the RE adoption in Rajasthan, so in this survey, 70 consumer filled this survey. So in this, you can see 40% establishment survey have been RE solutions. So 41% consumer are having the RE in their premises. So out of 45 industrial connection, 42 adopted the RE solution in comparison to 40% of 25 commercial connection. So 25 commercial connection by the commercial connection has the RE in their premises, and 42% have adopted by the industrial consumer. So majorly from the industry side, the cement and metal, and from the commercial side, restaurants, together they can contribute 52% of the RE setup in Rajasthan. So that is the RE adoption technique, you can say. So solar through open access, solar through captive route. So these are the figures that industrial and commercial are contributing. So out of 29 total adopters of RE, 19 are having RE below 1 megawatt. And only 7% of the RE adoption have the separate budget for RE procurement. Other than this, they have the energy budget, but especially for RE, they don't have the energy budget. They can include into the energy budget. But for the separate RE budget, only 7% are having the separate budget for RE. So in this, you can say the count of different business model through the financial things. So you can say 19 of the consumers are having solar rooftop through CapEx, and the 4 consumers are having solar through open access in the CapEx. So these are the some financially terms that using by the consumers. So you can see solar through open access captive route is capex 1. So solar rooftop from the loan from the financial institutions, only 2 consumers are there. So about the green tariff awareness, so only 52% have the, only 59% have say they don't know the green tariff awareness. So they don't know about the green tariff, in which the commercial are taking care by 56% and the industrial are taking care by the 63%. So I think green tariff awareness is very low. So when Rajasthan decided to announce green tariff, all efforts be made by the popularized to it. So I think, and 50, of course, we have show the scale of the interest level. So 1 to 5 interest level we have shown. So in this you can see 54% of consumer shown interest to know the green tariff. So these are some issues who are adopting the RE. These are some issues they are facing. So majorly DISCOM issue they are facing. So 50% consumers are having the DISCOM issue. Other than this, they have the RE tariff of RE energy conservation. So these are some issues we have to address, and in panel discussion I think we can take care of it. After this, I would like to call Mr. Siva to elaborate further slide. Thank you.
So thanks, Lalit, for giving us insights about the survey and analysis. So I'll have few slides regarding the requirement from the respondent side. So we all know that Rajasthan is the leading state in the country in terms of installed renewable energy capacities. But when it comes to open access, the respondents felt that with right set of interventions, the state can become a leader in open access, RE open access as well. The interventions could be more friendly policy and regulatory environment, and then rationalization of open access charges, including the cross-subsidy surcharge, because cross-subsidy surcharge in Rajasthan is amongst the highest in the country. So rationalization of charges and then more friendly renewable energy open access policies would probably help the C&I segment to increase their RE adoption. And these are some of the key takeaways from our survey. The first thing is, while on the this consumer segment having a lesser sanction load and contract demand, the adoption has found to be very good, especially in rooftop solar segment. However, we still feel that there is a lack of awareness and lack of understanding of different technologies amongst various consumer segments. So in order to address that, we are planning 2 to 3 more workshops in Rajasthan, in Jaipur and other parts of Rajasthan, to do the capacity building, awareness creation, and also show some case studies on best performing renewable energy plants in the country. And the next one is the policy awareness also is less amongst the C&I segment. While they fairly understand about net metering, gross metering policies, but when it comes to open access, the recent the development with respect to green open access rules and all, there is very limited awareness. And then green tariffs also, while it is announced in some other states, we are expecting that Rajasthan also would come up with some kind of tariffs in the near future. So there is limited awareness amongst about these aspects amongst the C&I segment. So that is another key takeaway. So there is a need for awareness creation amongst the segment. And then amongst these 70 respondents, we find that in some cases the capacity utilization of their electrical load is much lesser. So we have recommended to these respondents to reduce their demand so that they can do some kind of savings there. And then when it comes to open access also, people are mainly talking about solar, but then now wind and wind solar hybrids also have got excellent potential. The availability of the plant increases, and then whenever you require power, the power can be wheeled from wind solar hybrid power projects also. So there is a need to develop awareness amongst about these technologies as well. So the next steps are, the survey is still open. I mean, if any one of you are willing to participate in the survey, we'll be glad to share the link with you. And then in the next 2-3 months, we are planning 2 more workshops in Jaipur and in other industry clusters in Rajasthan, mainly to do this capacity building, awareness creation, and then introduce new technologies, new business models, and also create awareness about the policy ecosystem in the state. So that is what we are planning to do in the next 2-3 months. And once we firm up this survey analysis, we will certainly approach the various government departments within the state of Rajasthan, and then we'll submit our recommendations for increasing the RE adoption in C&I segment. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lalit and Sivagunathan, for this brief presentation. We would now proceed with our panel discussion. So now I would like to welcome our panelists to join us on the dais, please. First, I welcome Ms Deepti Mathur, Executive Engineer, DSM, Jaipur Vidyut Vitran Nigam Limited. She is a BE Electrical from MBM, Certified Energy Auditor from BEE. She is looking after energy efficiency and renewable energy domains in the DISCOM. She is a passionate advocate for clean energy both inside and outside her organization. She inspires us for being amongst very few women in the challenging domain of power sector. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Muralikrishnan Kannan, Principal Counselor, Confederation of Indian Industries, Green Business Center. He has over 23 plus years of cumulative professional experience. He has been associated with CII for 14 plus years and involved in detailed energy audits, training program, and various projects promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy. He is also a BEE certified energy auditor and ISO 4001 lead auditor. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Aneesh Vijayan, Director, Inside Development Consulting Group. He has more than 16 years of experience in advising partners, client, governments, donor agencies in conceptualizing and executing several research projects in energy and climate change. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Ajay Yadav, Founder, President of Freer Renewable Energy Association. He represents the rooftop solar players and consumers of Rajasthan. He is very active in policy advocacy of distributed RE space. Thank you, sir. Next, I welcome Mr. Tirthankar Mandal, Head of Energy Policy in Energy Program at WRI India. Thank you. Finally, I welcome Mr. Simran Grover, CEO, Bask Research Foundation, who will be moderating this session. Simran Grover is a public policy professional and his explorative professional journey in the domain of development and clean energy culminated in the founding of Bask Research, an initiative for energy equity and climate justice. Over to you.
Welcome everybody, and I also welcome the panelists here. I'm really excited to be amongst friends, and as a former rooftop player myself, I'm really excited to look to different perspectives of the panelists here. But before we start, I'll like to invite Tirthankar to put the context. Tirthankar, I think we are at 65 gigawatt solar in India, 21 gigawatt approximately in Rajasthan, right? Rooftop, as you said, is not taking up. So why are we really beating up the beaten bird? Why is rooftop still important? Why are we having this dialogue? Over to you.
Yeah, so, all the challenges said over there, I think the most important part is that actually the economics works for the consumers. That's the main driving force. We have seen that for the, the, the household sector, which is very clear, like they were actually spending at some point of time between 5 to 20,000, which are even the richer class or the richer consumers of the DISCOM service area. But when they go for solar, that has drastically gone down, right, or quite substantially. That's a major driving force. And what I was pointing to the fact that if this has been the phenomenon across all the fast movers across the rooftop solar. There is a reason for it, and reason is primarily that it makes sense to go for solar because of this. But as we actually expand, that is where the opportunity rises, because it will bring in the scale, and it will also bring in more and more players into the market who can actually provide services using all sets of smart things that are happening across. And there are also like policies that has been taken, that has been introduced, like virtual net metering and all sorts of things that are even nowadays you can actually own a solar system virtually. If you don't have it physically, you can also own it virtually as well, for the households as well as for the small consumers of the industrial segment. So that's a big opportunity which is actually it's on the runway to take off actually. So I think that's where most of the effort should go, how to actually unlock that kind of models and that kind of experiments that are going on. 100 experiments will come up. If at least 5 or 6 of them be successful and at scale, we will actually go there. So the second point is that it makes sense for DISCOMs as well, primarily because of 3 reasons. One is that, at the DT level, when there is a high losses of transmission, right? So because of various reasons and all. So for the DISCOMs, if you actually can have on-site generation and consumption arrangement done in a proper way with the aggregated model and all of those things, that makes good sense for solar. And that is why I think solar rooftop for the DISCOMs also make a good sense. The second is on the pricing part of it. I was actually pointing out to the fact that APPC and all of those things, that was based on a time when solar rooftop was costing higher than the traditional sources of energy. Now it is coming down, but that framework of pricing hasn't changed. I think there lies, everybody has to think through that how can we actually address the DISCOM concerns, because DISCOMs are like, they are being pointed out because nobody else is there to point out somebody else. It's like that situation. I'm being very candid over here, but we also have to take care of the fact that the DISCOMs are in a serious challenge, not because of the pricing or how to make their this thing work out, but also because if you suddenly have like 15 to 20 consumers putting this thing at the same time, how actually you can manage as well, planning perspective, it is also very important. And one of the key reasons for DISCOMs to also promote solar is that going forward, the middle class and the lower middle class income groups are going to be the major sources of adopters of solar. Now, this is the consumer segment for which you are providing free electricity or subsidized electricity in most of the states, right? Now, if you want to save your revenue, this is the best possible source you can actually adopt to, because you just put DISCOM owns the system, put their system on the roof, and then you get rid of your existing or fixed that whatever power that you are consuming at higher rates in the power procurement arrangement. That's the best way you can actually work out your economics better. So I think those are the reasons why it should be promoted, and solar is still best bet for managing all those financial issues and different types of issues for the DISCOM as well as for the consumers. I'll stop over here.
Thank you, Tirthankar. We'll definitely discuss that again from a discom perspective with Deepti ji. But before that, you said it's about to, on a runway to take off, and I think it's been there for 10 years. So, Aneesh, from your work, from your research work, what really new insights are emerging? What are the pain points? What needs to be we need to throttle down to make it work, especially from the consumer's perspective?
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank WRI for having me here and giving us an opportunity to work with WRI Bask to undertake this survey. We have been working in this space, doing different activities on and off. And based on my understanding and something which Tirthankar has already spoken about, right now we are targeting households which are in the higher income bracket. People whose electricity bill is upwards of 5,000 rupees, or maybe, largely people who have an electricity bill of 10,000 rupees and plus. So they are limited in numbers. Very soon, with some more targeted, effort, we may kind of reach a saturation level. What next? So what next is something that needs to be, taken into account now, and need to be, we need to have some sort of strategies in place to include those people. Say, for example, as Tirthankar said, there could be virtual, plans that you can have, which may not, which you don't know, which is not on your premises. It could be somewhere else. So those are the things that needs to be probably, promoted, or people need to be made aware about. And when it comes to, higher income bracket, finances, subsidies are not a major issue. What they look at is quality, and they want it to be done quickly. They were looking at quick turnaround. And they are looking at, getting some sort of cost savings on their electricity bill. But when we look at a segment lower, the economics is very different. They may not have enough money to infuse into the system. They may not be willing to take that risk. They may not have adequate roof space available with them for doing these things. So we need to be more innovative in terms of, our strategies. We need to come up with strategies or, things which could look at the demand at these level. The kind of, challenges which are there, and the way we can go ahead and address them. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Aneesh. We'll move from broadly domestic consumer, household consumers to MSME. Mr. Muralikrishnan, you have been working with MSME industry across 21 states in India, if I'm not wrong. So if you can sort of share with the audience and the panel here, what is the real state of adoption of clean energy, including solar, but maybe other technologies also, energy efficiency. So what is the broader perspective of MSME towards clean energy, climate change, etc., especially given the context that India labor is cheap, and MSME, at least in the normative discourse, has not been known to be forthcoming in the context of innovation and making investments for that. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, thanks to WRI for this opportunity, and then for this project for giving us for this opportunity. I will also highlight our recent engagement with MSME, which you mentioned. With the support of UNIDO, we were implementing a project in 21 clusters, working with more than 800 MSMEs. Out of that, at least 11 clusters were with cooperatives. And though in cooperatives, during the toughest time of COVID, this project was implemented from 2020 to 2022, and almost 50% of the investment was made in renewable energy, number one. And number two, then remaining 12 clusters, if you see, out of that, the 4 clusters were in ceramic sector in Gujarat, and more than 34 crores of investment was facilitated during the COVID time by more than 100 units in adopting solar especially. So the point is my point is there are a lot of positive driving factors. The economics is really attractive for them. So, and they are aware of that, especially when the second generation takes over the business. When they come into picture, that was also a positive point. So they are looking for green this thing. The other things, what happened in that cluster, particular cluster was, luckily we had a very good supportive policy and implementation from Gujarat government. Maybe the way of application, the way of sanctioning, the way of getting the money from the government was made online. So that was one of the initiative. Then the second point is, like, the local industry associations also played a key role. they came in forward and then they aggregated the demand. More than 40 people gave in writing that we are interested in implementing. Then with that, we approached SIDBI and HDFC. They were able to reduce the interest rate. So all this happened. So because of that, they were able to adopt it very quickly. But what challenges they face is, one is on implementation and then faster approval and implementation. Second is they also looking for local service provider. Like the point also has been highlighted earlier by two more speakers also, the quality of systems or the quality of vendors, the quality of systems, the performance, which they also look for local service providers. If they are good and they are certified, then obviously this will improve. So there are a lot of driving factors. If time permit, then I will cover that. What are the driving factors? We see a good opportunity emerging in many of the sectors. I will cover that maybe in the next round. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for that. Moving on to the role of distribution companies. Distribution companies have doesn't necessarily have a sweet relationship with distributed RE. So Deepti ma'am, you are definitely, I know personally, a strong advocate for solar energy efficiency and many other initiatives, right? A very really innovative voice for clean energy, which is a rarity in public distribution company space. So over to you. What really are the challenges from a distribution company perspective, and what really distribution companies really doing, especially from the context that it was highlighted by our colleagues here and also in the presentation, that the engagement with public distribution company for net metering, etc., still continues to be a pain point and an area of concern. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to WRI and Bask for having me here as a panelist. I've been hearing Mr. Mandal's presentation and all the other talks, and something that was it was that DISCOM is not being a very keen this provider in gearing up this net metering and solar rooftop. See, maybe for last few years it was true, but from as on now, I can very well, and Mr. Yadav is here, I think he'll be there to comment on it, that DISCOM is very proactively, working, going ahead for RTS policy, and especially I can talk about JVVNL, and we have already in line, our online software is already there, which has been created with the help of MNRE. So that is a big facilitator, and the recent tender that has been decided of 25 megawatt, we are very well going ahead with it, and it's been just 2 months, and I'm really sharing it with you that around already in Jaipur DISCOM we have already 1,000 applications, and we have already commissioned around 50-60 projects are already commissioned, and it's moving at a very fast pace. And as of now, Rajasthan as whole has already 889 megawatt of RTS, and JVVNL of course is in the lead with 412 megawatt. We are already there, and of course, yes, the residential sector is far behind. Of course, the numbers are more, but the capacity is not up to the mark. And industrial, what the figures I just want to tell you that though only 8.4% of connections are in the industrial, but it's catering to around 47% of the load. It's around 202 megawatts. So that is actually for DISCOM, that is not a very good aspect. So because as these consumers go away from us, we are losing a lot on revenue, and so there should be some policy changes, like some policy amendments. So because they are really moving away from us, and we are losing a lot of revenue. And of course, yes, I think DISCOM is a bit hesitant for this RTS program for domestic consumers, which I think in the long run is not going to affect them much on their health. I personally feel that DISCOM should go for some demand aggregation and some capex, some different business models. So which right now, no DISCOM in Rajasthan has gone for it, though a few studies, I personally took interest and have got a few studies made, but I think I'll be able to convince some higher authorities to go for some good business models, and so we can move ahead with RTS.
Thank you, ma'am. So things are changing. Hopefully we'll see things on the ground. Over to you, Ajay Yadav ji. आप as a DISCOM player, as a rooftop player और consumers के साथ नज़दीकी से जो काम करते हैं, what is their perspective? उनका क्या challenge है? And what are your pain points and what are the key pain points for the consumers from a policy perspective at least?
जी, थैंक यू. देखिए, मैं कोई इकोनॉमिक्स या उस तरह से बात नहीं करूँगा, मैं बताऊँगा थोड़ा सा साइकोलॉजिकल. एक्चुअली अगर आप बेस में जाएंगे तो रीज़न साइकोलॉजिकल है. मैम ने अभी जो बात कही है, मैं जानता हूँ कि वो बहुत ज़्यादा काम कर रही हैं, रूफटॉप पे बहुत ज़्यादा बिजी रहती हैं, हर एक वेंडर का रिप्लाई करती हैं क्या चल रहा है. वो इतने गर्व से बोल रही हैं कि हाँ हम कर रहे हैं, तो वो कर रही, मैं जानता हूँ. लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं आप एक दो लाइन जब आप सुनेंगे तो उसमें ये आता है कि भाई जो बड़े कंज्यूमर्स जा रहे हैं या पहले थोड़ा सा डिटरेंट था डिस्कॉम, तो वो रीज़न निकल के आ रहे हैं. देखिए, मैं इसमें आपको 4P मॉडल से समझाता हूँ. इसमें क्या है, पहला P तो है प्रायोरिटी. हमारी प्रायोरिटी नहीं है. जब भी आप डिस्कॉम से या किसी से भी पूछेंगे, अच्छी चीज़ तो हर कोई अच्छा ही बताएगा. आप डिस्कॉम से पूछिए रूफटॉप सही है, हाँ सही है. ये उसी तरह सही है जैसे कि योगा और जिम जाना सही है. हम सभी को पता है कि योगा करने से हम सही रहेंगे, लेकिन हमने तभी किया जब कोरोना आ गया. पता चला आप तो सांस ले लें, नहीं तो वो जब तक चीज़ नहीं आएगी तब तक बात सही नहीं होगी. अब मैं दूसरा P तुरंत लेके आता हूँ, पीपल. मैम के पास बहुत सारे काम हैं. जब आप उसको एक कॉमन टास्क में डाल देते हैं तो फिर वहाँ पे फिर वो प्रायोरिटी ही रोकती है कि मेरी प्रायोरिटी क्या है. मेरी प्रायोरिटी ये RTS है या और सारे काम हैं. अगर हमने बहुत रिक्वेस्ट की कि एक RTS सेल होना चाहिए, जो कि रूफटॉप पॉलिसी में MNRE ने बोल रखा था. वो रूफटॉप सोलर सेल तो बना है, लेकिन अगर मैम ये बोले कि उनका सिर्फ काम रूफटॉप को ही देखना है तो मैं मान जाऊंगा. और उस क्या रेवेन्यू जा रहा है डिस्कॉम से, क्या चीज़ है, उस सेल को उससे मतलब ही नहीं होना चाहिए. उसका टारगेट रूफटॉप को बढ़ावा देना है. उसका ये टारगेट होना चाहिए कि इतना रूफटॉप है और इसको बढ़ा के इतना देना है. आपको तो उस बेसिस पे प्रमोशन या इंसेंटिव होगा. तो उसको कोई मतलब नहीं है कि मेरा रेवेन्यू जा रहा है या क्या जा रहा है. देखिए, प्रायोरिटी उसकी सेट होनी चाहिए. हम अपने पड़ोसी गुजरात को देखें. गुजरात में 4.5 लाख कनेक्शन हैं रूफटॉप के, रेजिडेंशियल रूफटॉप, और हमारे यहाँ 25,000 हैं. 1.5 गीगावाट तो वहाँ पे सिर्फ रूफटॉप, रेजिडेंशियल रूफटॉप से जनरेट होता है. अब क्या होता है, ये बहुत ही छोटी सी चीज़ है. अगर आप उसमें 1.5 मेगावाट और 45 लाख में देखोगे तो आप देखोगे एवरेज 3 किलोवाट का प्रोजेक्ट बना जाके. 3 किलोवाट को कौन ध्यान देगा. डिस्कॉम जैसी संस्था जो इतनी बड़ी है उसके लिए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है. न तो वो नंबर्स कोई मैटर करते. राजस्थान जैसे स्टेट में जहाँ पे एक प्लांट ही 100 गीगावाट का लग रहा है, वहाँ पे अगर मैं 1.5 गीगावाट भी ले लूँ उससे तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. तो वो फिर प्रायोरिटी की बात आ गई. अब प्रायोरिटी ये है कि हमें उसको इकोनॉमिक्स, फाइनेंस उस तरह से देखना है, या हमें सोशियो इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स भी देखने हैं कि भाई इससे, जैसे आपने अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में कहा कि नो डाउट एनवायरनमेंट और ये सारे फैक्टर्स हैं, लेकिन वहाँ पे भी प्रायोरिटी आ जाती है. वो लगवाता इंसान तभी है जब उसको ROI बैठेगा. वो एनवायरनमेंट की वजह से नहीं लगवाता है. वो तो अलग बात है कि हाँ ठीक है भाई ये चीज़ भी हो जाएगी, ये अच्छा काम मैं कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन हाँ आप उसको ये लिख के दे दो ये करोगे तो साहब इतने आपको पुण्य जुड़ जाएंगे ऊपर जाने टाइम, वो तब लगवा लेगा. देखिए, हर जगह वो देखता है मेरा रिटर्न क्या आएगा. तो वो फैक्टर्स कंसीडर नहीं किए जा रहे. आपको पता है ये छोटे रूफटॉप से कितने सारे लोगों को काम मिलता है. जिनको मैं रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ, मैं क्या दिन रात यही सोचता रहता हूँ कि क्यों नहीं बढ़ावा मिल रहा है, तो क्या उनको कितना काम मिलता है। और नो डाउट अच्छी चीज़ तो है ही, वो तो हम जानते ही। अब देखिए, हम स्टडी करने के लिए जर्मनी पावर सिस्टम को स्टडी करने के लिए हम सारी जो जर्मन और यहाँ सब जगह घूम के आ जाते हैं, लेकिन हम जो एक पीपीटी पड़ी हुई है एमएनआरई की साइट पे, बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, वो हम अपने अप्लाई नहीं करते। हम गुजरात को भी स्टडी नहीं करते। ये तो मैं गुजरात के ही वहाँ से निकाल रहा हूँ। प्रायोरिटी के बाद पीपल, कि भाई आप देखिए, हमारा पोर्टल तो तैयार हो गया, लेकिन क्या कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग हुई, लोग तैयार हैं उसको चलाने के लिए। फिर वहाँ पे वही आ गई कि काम भले ही कुछ लोगों को ही दिया जाए, लेकिन उनकी प्रायोरिटी सेट हो कि आपको तो सिर्फ रूफटॉप पे ध्यान देना है। अब दूसरा आ गया पॉलिसी, तीसरा पी। पॉलिसी क्या होता है, जब भी कोई नियम कानून बनता है तो देखिए, कोई कानून बहुत पहले बन गया, जब हम उसकी कभी पुराने कानून को उठा के ले तो हम देखते हैं उसका भाव क्या था। जब वो कानून बनाया गया तो उसका भाव क्या था, भाव को हम ध्यान में रखेंगे तभी हम आज के हिसाब से पढ़ेंगे। अब हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्ट पढ़ेंगे तो हम पाएंगे कि साहब RERC का ये रेगुलेटरी कमीशन जो भी है स्टेट का, उसकी ये जिम्मेदारी होती है कि वो RE को बढ़ावा दे और उसके अनुसार वो कुछ अगर चाहे तो रेगुलेशन में बदलाव कर सकता है। लेकिन नहीं, जब आप RERC के ग्रिड जो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड जनरेशन वाले रेगुलेशन पढ़ेंगे तो आप उसमें पाएंगे कि साहब 2 मीटर लगाने हैं। अब आप देखो 3 किलोवाट का प्रोजेक्ट है, उसमें 2 सोलर मीटर, एक चेक और एक मेन, मतलब 6,000 रुपये तो उसका मीटर का ही हो गया एक्स्ट्रा, जिसकी कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। अब आप देखिए उसके बहुत सारे तरीके हैं, चेक चला गया, बिलिंग सिर्फ नेट मीटर से होती है, लेकिन वो है, उसके लिए आप बात करिए तो वो CEA के रेगुलेशन में ऐसा लिखा है। जबकि इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्ट 2003 में ये लिखा हुआ है कि आपको RE को बढ़ावा देना है और उसके अनुसार आप कुछ चाहे तो बदलाव कर सकते हैं। ऐसी बहुत सारी चीज़ें कि भाई उसमें टैरिफ हमारा एक यूनिट भी एक्सपोर्ट हो जाए तो हाईएस्ट स्लैब से होगा, ये तो पॉलिसी की बात है, इसमें डिस्कॉम कुछ नहीं कर सकता। डिस्कॉम तो बोलेगा कि साहब जो रेगुलेशन में लिखा है वो हम करेंगे वैसा। तो वहाँ पे पॉलिसी में भी बदलाव की ज़रूरत है। बस हो गया थोड़ा। अब सबसे आसान है प्रमोशन। हम अवेयरनेस इतनी बार बोल चुके हैं सारी प्रेजेंटेशन में, जब तक सही से प्रमोट नहीं होगी कोई भी पॉलिसी, कोई भी स्कीम, देखिए वो सब्सिडी के लिए इंतजार नहीं कर रहा है। एक तो होता है कि प्रमोशन नहीं करो, एक होता है गलत प्रमोशन करना। कई बार क्या होता है कि वो गलत खबर निकल गई कि अब तो सब्सिडी आ रही है, तो जो लगवा रहे थे वो भी रुक गए और सब्सिडी आई नहीं, टेंडर आए नहीं, वो सालों साल डिले हो गया। अब वो इंसान इतना दिमाग नहीं लगाता। ये बात भी गलत है कि सब्सिडी के लिए हर कोई नहीं रुकता है। वो जो अनीश जी ने जिनका जिक्र किया, उनको तो कभी सब्सिडी चाहिए ही नहीं थी, वो तो है ही नहीं वो लोग। लेकिन फिर भी मैं राजस्थान में ज़्यादातर लोग ऐसे हैं कि वो इंतज़ार कर लेंगे। 10 किलोवाट का सिस्टम है, अगर आपने 10 महीने इंतजार कर लिया, 1 लाख रुपए बिल दे दिया, 95,000 सब्सिडी मिलेगी। लेकिन नहीं, वो तो मिली ना उसको, वो इंतज़ार उसका कर लेंगे। और वो ये भी गणित देखिए, आप अगर इस गणित को जाएं सब्सिडी का, जब टैक्स नहीं था सोलर पे 0%, अगर आप उस टैक्स की वैल्यू को 13.8% देखेंगे तो आप पाएंगे वो जितनी आजकल सब्सिडी मिल रही है ना, उतना ही है। वो घूम फिरा के वही हो गया। लेकिन वो है, वो भी एक ड्राइविंग फोर्स है। अगर उसको सही से प्रमोट किया जाए और कंज्यूमर को ये बताना पड़ेगा कि आसानी से मिल रहा है या इतने पैसे तक सब्सिडी है। MNRE ने जब पोर्टल लॉन्च किया, नेशनल पोर्टल, तो वो पोर्टल पूरी तरह तैयार नहीं था और पूरे देश में हर अखबार में आ गया, नेशनल पोर्टल लॉन्च हो गया। खर्चा तो हुआ ना उस सब प्रमोशन पे, लेकिन वो किसी को पता नहीं चली वो चीज़। तो इसमें क्या है, आप अगर गुजरात की वो पढ़ेंगे ना बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस, तो उसमें आप पाएंगे कि उन्होंने उस तरह से किया, छोटे छोटे वीडियोस बना के लोगों तक पहुंचाए, व्हाट्सएप, SMS, हर तरह से उसको प्रमोट किया। डिस्कॉम के अलग सेल बनाया, डिस्कॉम में हर जगह प्रमोट किया कि सोलर लगवाओ, ये फ़ायदा है। उसमें ही आप एनवायरनमेंट भी लिख दो, वो चले ठीक है, अच्छा काम भी कर रहे हैं। लेकिन मेन तो उसका ये है कि आसानी से हो और उसके पैसे भी बचे। आसानी भी बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है कि मुझे भागना दौड़ना नहीं पड़ेगा, आप तो खुद अप्लाई करिए और आप क्या ये सब होगा, वेंडर आके बात करेगा, ये सब हो जाएगा। ऐसे आप उसको बताएंगे ना तो वो आगे बढ़ेगा। उसके मन में अभी भी डर है कि अगर कहीं मैं सब्सिडी के चक्कर में पड़ गया तो 6 महीने तक तो मेरा इंस्पेक्शन ही नहीं होगा मॉड्यूल का। ये तो क्लैरिफाई तो करना पड़ेगा ना, उसके तक हमें बात पहुंचानी पड़ेगी। तो ये सब ठीक हो जाए तो मिल जाएगा बढ़ावा।
धन्यवाद अजय जी, आपने काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट उठाए। And Tirthankar, I think your presentation also raised many of these points. These has been pain points since many years, since at least last 10 years, 12 years, I have been in the DRE sector. And one of your solution proposed, as maybe nothing else emerges, let DISCOMs be the owner, right? Now my question is both to Deepti ji and you, right? Deepti ji, are DISCOMs ready to become owners of rooftop solar and really promote it, right? And Tirthankar, again, your thoughts on it. Is it really viable? Is it feasible? Given now in the context, and I know distribution companies quite closely. We actually engage with JENs and technical staff on the ground. They are stressed. They are literally stressed, and they are stressed to keep the grid alive. So in the context, I think it will be unfair, in my opinion, please share yours, to ask them to prioritize distributed RE. Over to you.
See, actually, it's not a basic issue of prioritizing things. DISCOM is also a entity which looks after the social aspects as well, and we are quite responsible for our role in green energy and energy transition. So it's not that the DISCOM is always hampering the work of this NAT metering and RTS. We are moving ahead with this, and as far as MNRE is concerned, they are also providing us good incentives, and I must say that recently we have received an incentive of 23 crores for the year 2021. So, I mean, that is a real good work DISCOM is promoting, and even MNRE is compensating us for what we are losing. What I feel is, I think a good study is needed, that even because DISCOMs, they don't have time for all these, working the economics and all that. So I think you should take a study where you can be an eye-opener and tell DISCOM that basically if you go ahead with this much of RTS, you will not lose much. And I think I'm very sure, because I did ask him this. There was an IDM company. They did a small, a very small study, and it did come out that in long run we will not be at a loss if we look at the cost of infrastructure and everything, what we'll have to do to keep up the demand. So I want that a detailed study should be conducted, and of course that will really help DISCOM, and even to plea this case to our this regulators and everything. So it's not that DISCOM is not going ahead for promoting RTS, or it's like being hampering or something. But yes, of course, because and Gujarat is already there. They are working on some capex model which Rajasthan is not doing. So I think that if a study is there to show costs, we'll be definitely going ahead, and we are already going ahead with this lots of this panel, this distribution of pamphlets, and some jingles were also created, everything. So we will definitely publicize rooftop, and we are ready to go ahead with it.
Thank you, ma'am. Tirthankar, before you come in, thank you for raising the important point. There's a huge infrastructure cost, especially in terms of transmission, even though large-scale utility solar seems to cheaper, the associated cost can be very, very high. So a very important point, and why rooftop solar also becomes critical. But house announcement, we will open the house for Q&A later, and I'll also request my colleagues from WRI to take note of questions from Zoom, etc. Over to you, Tirthankar.
Yeah, so I think there are 2 points to it. One is that we need to understand why the DISCOMs are behaving in the way they are behaving, right? So as towards the end, I actually mentioned where are those opportunities lie, right? The current, and I think one of the big development was in Rajasthan was the 2019 regulation that came out to move away from APPC based pricing, because you have to recognize that solar prices are falling even in the rooftop solar segment, right? And this net metering, when it came out for the first time, that time the prices were pretty high. That time it makes sense that you go by the APPC and all of those things. But as the things keep on changing, the DISCOMs are being asked to actually follow the same route, which is not, I don't think that is a very plausible way, and that is one of the reasons why they are in the financing thing, at least for the whatever the rooftop has happened or whatever that is going on. That is not, and that is why we need to take care, or we need to take the opportunity of new like tariff designing models. And the DISCOM should be allowed to use those models as well, more liberally, I would say. Because if you take the examples of, unfortunately, the examples that come to my mind are from the private DISCOMs, like the BYPL and the BRPL of the world. They are also considering TOD tariff for the residential segment, which is not there in many of the states in Rajasthan, right? Not in Rajasthan, not in India as well. So this is a major breakthrough will be happening, because DISCOM can then have a differential pricing and have a much more elbow room for managing their finances. That is where people and policymakers actually say that the moment you go for DISCOM, the big thing came up is how are you performing on revenue. That is one way to tackle it. The second point, I will be short on that, is that how DISCOMs can use those aggregated model. Ma'am has already mentioned about aggregated demand and all of those things. Plus, you should also combine, it's just one model will not work. Like you have to combine different sets of things to actually come up with it. It's like a cooking a dish. You don't just put haldi and salt. Obviously, it can make a good dish, but it might actually need to, you think of it as a biryani basically. So you need to put many spices to make that biryani happen. So that is how solar segment probably needs to have more DISCOM facilitation plus various other elbow rooms that DISCOM can operate. That should be given, because solar prices, the things have changed from the earlier times. So we need to recognize that and move forward. And that is where the bottlenecks, I think, is currently there. So we need to actually address that part.
Thank you, Tirthankar. I think the incentive under the net metering scheme is an important issue, right? MOP came up with some rules limiting it to 10 kilowatt. There was a political backlash sort of from stakeholders, of course. Same happened in Rajasthan also, and the limit for net meter was again increased to 500 kilowatt. Now, the fact of the matter is, number one, right now the power procurement portfolio from rooftop solar, distributed RE, is in the range of 0.8% to 1%. As per our calculations, we might be a little plus or minus, right? So right now, it really doesn't make a difference, right? It really doesn't make a dent in the DISCOM's balance sheet. But let's say if we are promoting solar, and as you said, there's a potential to be unlocked. Let's say we are moving to 5%, 10%. Globally, we see many countries are in the range of 40 to 60% of their RE potential coming from distributed RE. So that's at least technically possible, right? Will these incentives still be sustainable? 500 kilowatt net metering, will it be sustainable, right? Deepti ji, you can quickly respond to that. But more importantly, for long-term sustainable transition and with a consistent pace, that's what is important for the industry. Mr. Muralikrishnan and Mr. Ajay ji, agar aap bhi respond kar sakte hain, can we build a consensus around the fact that since solar prices are going down, right, it can't be just a money-making asset, both for the MSME as well as domestic market. Can there be eventually a consensus built that the incentive needs to be tapered and brought down, keeping in mind that आपकी जो tariff है, उसमें जो energy charges which are billed, a part of that energy charges also help DISCOM recover fixed costs, right? All the fixed costs are not up front loaded in the fixed charge, right? So and the adopters of RE are people like you and me, which are middle income and higher income, right? So if we allow that to continue, you are socializing the cost among the poorer consumers. So is there a possibility to engage in dialogue and build that consensus? Or what's the position of the respective sectors on that? Please.
नहीं, बिल्कुल सही है. इसमें मैं ये ऐड करना चाहूँगा, हमारा जो RERC का जो रेगुलेशन है 2021 का डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड का, उसमें ये एक पॉइंट दिया हुआ है किसी क्लॉज में कि आने वाले टाइम पे ग्रिड सपोर्ट चार्जेस लगाए जा सकते हैं जो भी नेट मीटरिंग होगी. और वो सही भी है, क्योंकि जब ये हमें समझ में आता है कि हाँ भाई, आप ग्रिड को ऐसे यूज़ नहीं कर सकते कि जब चाहे हमने जनरेट किया और जब हमें पावर चाहिए तो हमने ग्रिड से ले लिया, सिर्फ बैंकिंग के लिए नहीं। और मैं खुद ये चाहता हूँ, मतलब कंसेंसस की बात हो रही तो मैं ये चाहता हूँ कि भाई जैसे जैसे रिन्यूएबल्स बढ़ रहा है ना, उसके साथ ही साथ वो समय आ गया है या अभी से ही हम वो चीज़ शुरू करें कि हम स्टोरेज को बढ़ावा दें, हाइब्रिड को बढ़ावा दें। हालांकि मैं इसमें एक चीज़ और ऐड करूंगा, अभी तक आप अगर राजस्थान का देखें तो मुझे लगता नहीं कि कहीं पे हाइब्रिड सिस्टम लग रहे हैं। ऐसा नहीं है कि कंज्यूमर लगाना नहीं चाहता है, पॉलिसी में भी लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं डिस्कॉम जो है वो उस चीज़ को जो मैंने बोला ना, जहाँ पे पीपल की बात है कि वो डाउन द लाइन सभी को वो चीज़ पता होनी चाहिए कि हाइब्रिड लग रहा है तो उसको उसकी नेट मीटरिंग हो जाएगी और हमें करनी है, जो जेईएन है रिमोट एरियाज़ में। तो वो चीज़ नहीं है, वो दिक्कत आती है, लोग पूछते हैं और फिर वो बोलते हैं कि यार मैं हाइब्रिड पे नहीं आता, मैं अपना ऑन ग्रिड ही लगवाऊंगा। तो अगर डिस्कॉम इसको बढ़ावा दे कि आप हाइब्रिड पे जाइए तो वो अच्छा है सबके लिए, लोग चाहते हैं हाइब्रिड लगाना।
So I would like to add, like, see, for example, in my personal opinion, like, see, after COVID, now we are back to the normal, and then we are also seeing the rising temperature, the demand is going to increase, and even in 2030, our estimates are thermal will continue. So considering those infrastructure costs, or the 40% of Indian infrastructure is yet to be built, and the industry growth, definitely the new infrastructure can be considered for RE, and kind of even the discoms also can consider what is the infrastructure they are going to build up. When compared to that money, this can be an attractive. That is one point. Apart from the economics or subsidy, what I feel also is another driving factor is the carbon, or going towards net zero or sustainability. Now, any product which you want to export to Europe, or any industry which is involved in exports, they are all worried about carbon footprint, and they are all worried about their low carbon roadmap or decarbonization. They are seriously looking into RE, and the major OEMs are pushing their MSME to go for greener technologies and low carbon technologies. So the industry is ready to adopt these technologies, not only for subsidy gain or not only for the prices, but even for growth, even for getting a greener image, so that they get more turnover and they increase their profitability. So they are ready for that. The point is, it should be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders. If all of us can come together, definitely industry will be ready to accept for few challenges, and then they will also put a bid. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnan.
I'm sorry, one more is the green hydrogen. If hydrogen comes into picture, the entire scenario will change. The entire RE which is coming up, which is already there, will undergo a drastic change. That is also another opportunity.
Few years away from that, but yes, anything can happen in the space of technology. You know, we were not expecting ChatGPT, but it's here now. Aneesh, you have been sitting quietly. So from a consumer perspective, you know, how much is trust and ease of buying an issue?
See, here, from a consumer's perspective, RE, and when we talk about solar rooftops, it's a very new concept for people. They don't understand. So if I have to buy a fridge, I have to buy a washing machine, I know these are known brands, I can walk in, I can see the machines, I have enough, references to check with, and I can do that transaction. But when it comes to installing a solar rooftop, people are, frankly speaking, little clueless. What they have in terms of knowledge is, if someone known has installed a solar rooftop, they will probably consult with that person, and they would go to a person or a vendor who has done that for them, because that is how the trust is building up. And people are not even aware about many vendors in the market. And when we did the survey and when we interacted with people, what we got to know was all the promotion is happening through the vendors themselves. So they receive a message one fine day saying that do you want to reduce your electricity bill? Contact us. And that is how that initial conversation starts. Then vendor is the person who is educating them on policies, is educating them on various regulatory aspects. Vendor is the one who is telling them, okay, this is what these permissions are required from DISCOM, this is required from the ULB. And then vendor is eventually the person who is actually getting those permissions in place. So vendor plays the key role. But frankly speaking, there are not enough platforms there are not enough, avenues for the vendors to reach out to the consumers, for the vendors also to, play an important role in educating the, eventual consumers. So I think somewhere through these dialogues or similar dialogues, we need to create more awareness about what is available in the market, who are the players available in the market, what is there to offer. I mean, those things will, definitely be very, very useful, because a lot of people who have not installed solar, one, the, finances, pricing is the point. And second, important thing which came to the picture is because lack of trust. They don't know what we are getting into. They don't have enough, knowledge about it, enough background information about it. So they're a little skeptical in terms of, making an investment, getting into something which is little unknown, into an unknown territory. So yeah, so there needs to be enough avenues and enough focus on creating and building the trust.
Thanks, Aneesh, for that. Ajay ji, on part of panel here, do send our regards to all the players that have been necessitated for you for really educating the consumers. I think their role is really talked about. So congratulations and thank you for that. But as a consumer also, I have concerns. Today I go out, I will get quotations for 35,000 kilowatt to 45,000 kilowatt, even less, even more, right? As Aneesh said and even presented, I don't know what I will be getting into. Even in terms of quality, engineering, reliability, I know many people who I advise on rooftop solar. Most people don't even get the basic documents, SLDs, shadow analysis, BOM, etc. Only after the system is installed, they know what is getting installed, right? So how do we address these concerns? Is there a way the sector can regulate itself better, or is there a need for policy intervention? What can be done? Please, Mr. Krishnan.
Actually, CII along with USAID and SARAP have launched a vendor rating program which rates the vendors, and then I think that kind of programs can also help, and CII will definitely play a role, and that can ensure the quality, performance, delivery, and the safety as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think for vendors it is, although DISCOMs are the main players for implementing and interacting with both the vendors and the consumers, I think here there is a greater role for overall energy policy actors, I would put it in that way. So it's the energy department, the regulators, everybody has their role to play, because what are we asking for the vendors to provide? In terms of trust, they are basically asked to provide the reliability of the system kind of thing, right? That is the simple thing that we are asking from the vendors.
Safety also.
Yeah, safety as well. Reliability, safety, those kinds of things. Like at the end of the day, how much, if I get a full 12 hours of sunlight, how much is my 100 square feet of the space is going to generate? If the vendor can categorically provide that information, or at least the departments can come together and identify few, like 7, I just take 10 seconds, that if they can actually put out some basic minimum requirements for in terms of performance of the system that they have provided for in the empanelment thing itself, because they are providing various informations, and those informations are mostly related to turnovers. So we are using those proxy variables to actually gauge them who is a better and reliable and safer player to go. But if you can actually target these practical sense or practical information, then I see that would actually play a very vital role, because your next phase is not the cities, but it is going to be the rural areas to actually get to that level, and for them it is much more a big tough uphill task to be at that level.
Definitely. Ajay ji, your thoughts?
मैं तीर्थंकर जी की बात से पूरी तरह सहमत हूँ, और जैसे CII का जो सर ने बताया वेंडर रेटिंग प्रोग्राम है, वो रेटिंग प्रोग्राम अच्छा है, लेकिन उसमें भी ये सारे फैक्टर्स इंक्लूड होने चाहिए. ठीक है, अगर डिस्कॉम या कोई एजेंसी नहीं कर सकती और आप उसको MNRE के साथ में कर रहे हैं, तो फिर आपका वो रोल बन जाता है कि आप उन फैक्टर्स को कंसीडर करें. दूसरा आपका ये जो वेंडर रेटिंग आप दे रहे हैं इसको भी प्रमोट करने की ज़रूरत है, जिससे कि जो एंड यूज़र है उसको पता रहे कि भाई ऐसी कोई चीज़ है भी, हाँ रेटेड वेंडर्स भी होते हैं.
There's something that I want to add here. जैसे अभी आपने बताया कि वेंडर रेटिंग है एंड लोगों को उसके बारे में पता होना चाहिए. Similarly, I mean, in terms of what Tirthankar was saying, if as a consumer, if I have to ask certain questions to a vendor, I should know what I need to ask. At a consumer's level, they don't know what to ask. So there, at least, I mean, from a the DISCOM has a leading role to play here. Ideally, the DISCOM should be the ones who should be in the, driving seat. They should be driving this initiative together with the vendors. And they should be the one who should be providing this direction. So DISCOM has a role in, creating some sort of knowledge where, or maybe a ready reckoner, or maybe ready set of questions which can be there through which consumers can evaluate a vendor. I mean, when it comes to safety, when it comes to reliability, when it comes to other technical specifications of the system that they're installing, they need to be equipped with those, questions through which they can at least, evaluate a vendor and take an informed decision for that matter.
I just want to add that we are missing a entity which is SMS, because their role is reduced and they can actually play these softer roles.
Yes, thank you, Aneesh. That was a very good, you have given us a good insight, and I'll be just taking this all views back. And like we initially, when this energy efficiency projects were started, we did lots of, programs with and the CII also, MSMEs also, and even the residents' welfare societies. So I think we should take up something like this. So we should have some meets with the Residents Welfare Society where consumers can gather and these people can take forward, and we'll be providing them with all the good documents related what that questionnaire you are just talking about, that what all things the consumer should know before going in for RTS. But somehow I feel that many in the cities, of course, the consumers are quite well aware, because the number of phone calls I've been receiving, there are some questions which even I cannot answer them immediately, and they are so well aware of it. So many, like which panel to buy and this facing and they know about all these things. They are very well read, and because of I think all these Google and everything, they are quite, and especially this consumers own the range of 5 to 10 kilowatt. They are very, very well, read. But yes, of course, we'll be doing our part. We cannot refrain from what DISCOM should do. So I'll just take this back and discuss it with all my seniors, and we are definitely going to come back with something very good initiatives. I assure you of that.
Thank you, Deepti ji. We shall be happy to come with you.
एक पॉइंट मैं इसमें ऐड करूंगा. देखिए, क्वेश्चंस तो हो गए एंड यूज़र के लिए, वो सही से पूछ लेगा, जान लेगा भाई कितना बिजली बनेगी, क्या है, वहाँ तक ठीक है. लेकिन डिस्कॉम को भले ही वो क्वेश्चंस तो ये सारी जो संस्थाएं हैं वो भी दे देंगी, लेकिन उसका जो प्रोजेक्ट किस तरह का लगा है, वो जनरेट करे नहीं करे वो चलेगा, लेकिन सेफ्टी को बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान में देने की ज़रूरत है. डिस्कॉम को ये ज़्यादा ध्यान में देना चाहिए, और अपने खासकर जो रिमोट में जो AN JN जो भी चेक करने जाते हैं, वो इस चीज़ का ध्यान दें कि सेफ्टी पैरामीटर्स को ध्यान में रखा गया है, क्योंकि वो है रिस्की चीज़. मतलब उसको आप हल्के, जब तक सब अच्छा चल रहा है अच्छा है, लेकिन वो है बिजली बनाने वाली चीज़ और वो रिस्की है, तो उसकी सेफ्टी पैरामीटर्स को, और वो डिस्कॉम ही कर सकता है, क्योंकि उनको सब आता है. वो जाके उस पर बिल्कुल भी ओके नहीं करें, कहीं पे कुछ भी गड़बड़ है तो आपका नेट मीटरिंग नहीं होगा, वैसा होना चाहिए.
बिल्कुल. Safety is a huge concern, but we are running quite late. We are standing between lunch and the audience, so should draw it to a close soon. But any questions from the audience? Mr. A.K. Gupta, can you pass on the mic?
मैं भी हिंदी में बोलूँगा. मैं बहुत देर से सुन रहा हूँ आपकी बात, और जो सारा फोकस है आपका, वो फोकस है RTS के ऊपर, और उसमें मिस्टर मंडल और मिस्टर यादव दोनों का ओरिएंटेशन ये है कि डिस्कॉम इज समवॉट, दे आर नॉट इंटरेस्टेड, दे आर डिस्करेजिंग. इस तरह का एटीट्यूड आप दोनों का दिख रहा है मुझे, और इसलिए मैं रिएक्ट कर रहा हूँ मैं इसको। देखो ऐसा है, डिस्कॉम की जो फंक्शनलिटीज़ हैं और पॉलिसीज़ हैं, उसके लिए तो डिस्कॉम को आप ब्लेम कर सकते हो, तो आपको उसको दूसरी तरफ सोचना चाहिए कि रेगुलेशंस क्या हैं, डिस्कॉम उसमें फंक्शन कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है, उसमें क्या इंप्रूवमेंट होना है। वहाँ यदि मंडल कमेंट करते तो मैं उसको अप्रिशिएट करता। अब दूसरी बात है कि सर्विसेज जो रेंडर कर रहे हैं डिस्कॉम्स, उसमें डिस्कॉम्स के जो नीचे की फंक्शनरीज हैं उनकी एफिशिएंसी पर डिपेंड करता है। डिस्कॉम्स का मेन फंक्शन क्या है? डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करके कंज्यूमर को बिजली देना, उससे पैसे कलेक्ट करना और एफिशिएंट सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करना। आप मुझे कोई भी बता दीजिए, आपके जितने पैनलिस्ट बैठे हैं, डिस्कॉम कभी जाता है कंज्यूमर के पास में तो वही कनेक्शन ले? कभी नहीं जाता ना। जिसको कनेक्शन चाहिए वो डिस्कॉम के ऑफिस में आता है, यह माइंड सेट है। हाँ, रेगुलेशंस क्या हैं वो एक बार कभी बता दिए, या जो सप्लाई कोड है, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कोड है, वो कहीं आ गया जिसको कि नॉर्मल कंज्यूमर नहीं जानता। आज भी क्या है, आज भी आपको यहाँ जयपुर में भी कोई कनेक्शन चाहिए तो आप करेंगे क्या? करेंगे ये देखेंगे कि किसी कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को मैं पूछ लूँ जिसने मेरी वायरिंग की है वही मेरा कनेक्शन करा देगा। इट इज़ यूजुअल प्रैक्टिस। आप ज़्यादा स्मार्ट हैं तो उसके डेस्क पर जाएंगे, वहाँ जाके पूछेंगे कि भाई कनेक्शन कैसे होता है, मुझे फाइल बता दो, ये बता दो, ये सब चीज़ें चलती हैं। अब मैं आता हूँ आपके सोलर के ऊपर, रूफटॉप सोलर के लिए है। ऐसी क्या फैसिलिटी डिस्कॉम से आपको चाहिए जो डिस्कॉम दे आपको, जो कि नए वाले कनेक्शन के लिए नहीं देता है, या देता है उसके पैरेलल चाहिए? वो सब अवेलेबल हैं। यदि आप डिस्कॉम की डेस्क पे आज भी जाके पूछिएगा कि मुझे रूफटॉप सोलर लगवाना है, मैं किस तरह लगवाऊँ, वो आपको बता देगा। जो आप बता रहे हैं कि कितने वेंडर्स हैं, उनकी लिस्ट भी दे देगा वो। पर कौन जाता है वहाँ? तो इसमें जो रूफटॉप सोलर को प्रमोट करने के लिए अमॉन्ग्स द नॉर्मल कंज्यूमर्स, डोमेस्टिक कंज्यूमर्स, उनके लिए एक आईसी होना चाहिए, जो मैं समझता हूँ। और एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात मिस्टर मंडल ने कहा था, वो ये है कि मैंने रूफटॉप सोलर लगवा लिया, मुझे आज 5 साल करीब करीब हो गए मेरे को खुद को, उसकी जो गारंटी पीरियड थी वो सब निकल गया। अब वो वेंडर सर्विस के लिए मैं कहाँ जाऊँ? वो वेंडर ही नहीं रहा अब जिससे मैंने लगवाया था। तो यदि मैं अपना एक्सपीरियंस मेरे पड़ोसी को शेयर करूँगा, अरे यार ये तो बेकार है भाई, इसको तो मतलब लगवाना नहीं, तो उसको देखने वाले ही कोई नहीं है। तो अभी आप मान लीजिए कोई कार लेके आते हैं, कोई ब्रांडेड लेके आते हैं। अब मैं यदि ब्रांड का नाम लूँगा, शेवरले की अपने यहाँ से हिंदुस्तान से पूरी सर्विसेज ख़त्म हो गई। अब आप कहाँ जा रहे हो? रोड साइड वेंडर के पास, पर वेंडर इज़ देयर, ऑथराइज नहीं है पर है तो सही। अब रूफटॉप सोलर के लिए कहाँ वेंडर है? तो जो आप कह रहे थे ना, वो वेंडर सर्विस जो है वो चाहिए। और जो दूसरी बात अभी आप लोगों के डिस्कशन से आई थी, वो ये है कि लोगों को अवेयरनेस चाहिए। तो हमने इसको इतना कॉम्प्लेक्स बना दिया है इसको कि हम ही लोग डिस्कस करके रह जाते हैं, हम ही लोग रेगुलेशंस बनाते हैं, हम ही उनको एड्रेस करते हैं उनकी प्रॉब्लम को, और हम ही सॉल्यूशन निकाल देते हैं उसका। जो स्टेक होल्डर है उसे पता ही नहीं कि मेरे लिए हो क्या रहा है। जो आप इंसेंटिव दे रहे हो, आप मर्जी है जितना इंसेंटिव दे दो, कि अभी समय 40% दूंगा, इसके बाद में मैं आपको 20% दूंगा, उसे इंसेंटिव से मतलब नहीं, उसको नेट कॉस्ट से मतलब है। नेट कॉस्ट मेरे को अभी इंस्टॉलेशन की क्या है और उसके बाद में सर्विसेज क्या मिलेंगी, बाकी सब वो एडवांटेज तो देख लेगा। वो देख लेगा कि मुझे कौन सी गाड़ी चाहिए, लग्जरी गाड़ी चाहिए, उसका किलोमीटर रन कितना है, दूसरी गाड़ी चाहिए, उसका किलोमीटर रन कितना है, तो वो तो अपने आप देख लेगा। इतना कंज्यूमर, जैसे मिस्टर यादव कह रहे थे, वो इकोनॉमी तो अपने आप देख लेगा। उसको ये बताने वाला चाहिए, उसको ये आईसी चाहिए। अब वो उसको कैसे डेवलप करें? हमारी एमएनआरईसी की पॉलिसी में या स्टेट रेगुलेटर की पॉलिसीज़ में या डिस्कॉम की तरफ से इस तरह का कोई प्रोविज़न नहीं है कि साहब ये डेस्क है, ये वहाँ पब्लिक में आप वहाँ चले जाइए, आपको ये आदमी बताएगा। और जितने एनजीओज़ हैं या जितने आप लोग भी हैं, चाहे वो CII हो, चाहे बास्क हो या WRI हो, ये हमारे यहाँ के डिस्कशंस के लिए तो ठीक है, पर जो एक नॉर्मल आदमी जिसको हम उम्मीद कर रहे हैं, अब उसके लिए क्या किया जाए? कोई नया प्रोडक्ट यदि कोई कंपनी लॉन्च करती है अपना, उसके लिए घर घर पहले मार्केटिंग के लिए आदमी भेजते थे, आजकल सोशल मीडिया हो गया, वहाँ से भी जाते हैं। आपने कितने ऐड देखे हैं सोशल मीडिया पे? जो देखे होंगे वो उन लोगों के देखे होंगे, और सारे इस स्टाइल में होंगे कि उनको समझने वाला ही समझ सकता है, कोई नॉर्मल आदमी समझ ही नहीं सकता उसको। वो फिर माउथ पब्लिसिटी काम करती है कि मेरे पड़ोसी ने कैसे लगवाया है। तो सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट 2 चीज़ मैं समझता हूँ जो होनी चाहिए वो इसमें आपके सारे डिस्कशन में, भाई डिस्कॉम से आप क्या उम्मीद कर रहे हो? मुझे बता दीजिएगा, आप एज कस्टमर बता दीजिए डिस्कॉम से आप क्या उम्मीद कर रहे थे जो आपको नहीं मिली। पॉलिसी में कोई कमी नहीं है, रेगुलेटर के यहाँ से भी कमी नहीं है, MNRE से भी कोई कमी नहीं है, और वो डिस्कॉम उसको सर्व करने में कहीं कोताही बरत रहा है, ऐसा भी नहीं है। कोई कंज्यूमर ये कह दे या कोई कस्टमर ये कह दे कि साहब मुझे सोलर पावर लगाना था, प्लांट लगाना था, और मुझे डिस्कॉम ने लौटा दिया या डिस्करेज कर दिया, ये नहीं है। माइंड सेट थ्रू आउट इंडिया डिस्कॉम्स का एक ही है, चाहे वो प्राइवेटाइजेशन में फ्रेंचाइजी पे चले गए तब भी यही है कि आपको जाना पड़ेगा वहाँ डेस्क पे, वहाँ पूछना पड़ेगा, वो आपके सर्विस रेंडर करने में उस आदमी की एफिशिएंसी बीच में आती है जो वहाँ डेस्क पे बैठा हुआ है। तो आपको वहाँ से ये इनिशिएटिव लेने चाहिए जो मैं समझता हूँ, और इसीलिए अभी डिस्कॉम में इनको शायद दीप्ति उसी में ही है, डिस्कॉम का एक डेडिकेटेड सेल इसीलिए बनाया गया है। पर उस डेडिकेटेड सेल की पब्लिसिटी कितनी है, कितने हम लोग में से जानते हैं जो जयपुर में है कि दीप्ति उसकी इंचार्ज है। आपको सोलर पावर प्लांट लगवाना है, रूफटॉप लगवाना है, आप इनसे पूछ लीजिए। कोई पब्लिसिटी आपके नंबर की है क्या, कोई वेबसाइट आपकी अकेली, अभी पोर्टल बना है, तो आप वहाँ तक जाएंगे तब जाके पता लगेगा। ऐसा कंज्यूमर का माइंडसेट है नहीं। बिजली के कनेक्शन तो उसके लिए नेसेसिटी है, यदि बिजली चाहिए तो कनेक्शन लेना है, इसलिए वो जाएगा ही जाएगा, वो चाहे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के पास जाए, चाहे किसी वेंडर के पास जाए, या डिस्कॉम के ऑफिस में जाए। तो मेरा इतना सारा कहने का मतलब ये है कि जस्ट पुटिंग ऑन दी शोल्डर्स ऑफ द डिस्कॉम की ये कुछ नहीं कर रहे इसलिए एफिशिएंसी नहीं आ रही, ये थोड़ा सा मुझे पिंच किया इसलिए मैंने ये बात कहा। ये अपने को वहाँ तक जाना चाहिए कि जहाँ आप एक्सपेक्ट क्या करते हो डिस्कॉम से, जो कि डिस्कॉम नहीं कर रही है, और उसमें क्या अदरवाइज उसके ऑल्टरनेटिव क्या हो सकते हैं, वो मैं आपको सजेस्ट कर रहा हूँ कि डेस्क आप चाहे कहीं भी लगा दीजिए, जब तक आप जाओगे नहीं वो कैसे बताएगा आपको। थैंक यू।
Points well noted, sir. Titu, you want to respond?
Yeah, I think what I was saying is that discoms are pressed to balance their finances because अभी solar pricing net metering पे APPC के basis पे होता है. Now there is a gap between APPC and what is
तो उसमें कोई डिस्कॉम का रोल नहीं है।
नहीं, that is the regulation.
तो मैं यही मैं कह रहा हूँ ना कि तीन
डिस्कॉम नहीं सर,
मंडल साहब तीन आदमी मिलकर के करते हैं, एंड फ्रॉम द डिस्कॉम साइड आई एम ऑलरेडी एक्टिंग अपॉन। हमने उनको कहा है कि FIT आपका बहुत कम है, तो वो इकोनॉमी में जाता है। वो अभी यादव भी कह रहे थे, वो दूसरी तरीके से कह रहे थे, और पैरेलल ऑपरेशन चार्जेस लगाने की बात थी, ये भी सही है, उसको भी हम लोगों ने ऑब्जेक्ट किया है। तो ये जो रेगुलेशंस हैं ये एक अलग है, इसमें डिस्कॉम कहीं बीच में नहीं आता। डिस्कॉम अपने कस्टमर के लिए लड़ता है और रेगुलेटर भी कस्टमर के बेनिफिट के लिए ही रेगुलेशन निकालते हैं। ये दोनों चीज़ें हैं, दोनों में बैलेंस करके जो कस्टमर को चाहिए वही तो मिलता है उसको। पर फिर भी उसके बाद में जब गैप रह जाता है तो फिर ये बात उठती है बाद में। और अभी जो हमारा टैरिफ ऑर्डर है जो भी मतलब एक्सपेक्टेड है, उसके लिए ऑब्जेक्शंस आए हैं। उसमें रूफटॉप सोलर के प्रमोशन में जो दिक्कतें आ रही हैं कंज्यूमर के साइड से वो उनको बताई गई हैं। उसमें FIT भी एक पॉइंट है। हाँ, आप बताइए आप क्या कह रहे थे।
No, that is what exactly my point is. कि you have to move from APPC base to a new pricing policy where discoms, this gap is not being hit for the discom, because वो अगर hit होता है then it will be automatic for the discom to not to promote or go forward for it because it is a revenue
that has already been addressed.
No, that is
Mr.
what
Mandal,
I'm saying.
No, I don't agree. That has already been addressed by
exactly what I said, sir.
That has already been addressed by the Ministry of Power. उनके regulations भी हैं, उनके orders भी हैं, और rules में भी amendment उनके हो चुके हैं। तो जो प्रॉब्लम आ रही है वो वहाँ आ रही है। डिस्कॉम को जब आप बात करते हैं तो डिस्कॉम इज़ टू वर्क अंडर द रेगुलेशंस एंड फ्रेमवर्क सेट फॉर। उसमें यदि डेफिशिएंसी है तो वो डेफिशिएंसी ये है कि डिस्कॉम की सर्विस रेंडर करने में जो इनएफिशिएंसी है वो उसकी डेफिशिएंसी है, दैट्स ऑल। डिस्कॉम इज़ नॉट टू टेक द कॉल। जो अभी आप कह रहे थे, सिमरन कह रहे थे, आपको पता नहीं है, मतलब जो चीज़ें हैं वो ऑलरेडी एड्रेस हो चुकी। आपकी एक यूनिट के लिए जो कि वो एक दिन के अंदर टोटल मेरा डिस्कॉम का नेटवर्क जो वो यूज़ करेगा 8 से 10 घंटे यूज़ करेगा, और बाकी के जो बचे 20 घंटे उसके लिए तो मुझे बियर करना है ना, उसका बियर एंड टीयर या मेंटेनेंस, तो वो ऑलरेडी एड्रेस्ड है। इसके बावजूद भी यदि FIT बढ़ जाती है तो वो कंज्यूमर को एड्रेस करेगी। इस सब से कंज्यूमर का कोई लेना देना नहीं है। कंज्यूमर का लेना देना तो आज ये है कि मुझे यदि मैं एक्स्ट्रा बिजली बनाऊंगा तो कितने पैसे मिलेंगे, ये तो उसका इंटरेस्ट है। दूसरी बात ये है कि यदि मैं बिजली अपने सोलर से यूज़ करूँगा तो मुझे कितने कम पैसे देने पड़ेंगे। तो मेन चीज़ तो यहाँ लाई करती है ना, तो वो एड्रेस करे, वो उसको एजुकेट कोई करने वाले हैं। जैसे अभी आप कह रहे थे कि वेंडर्स ही एजुकेट करते हैं, ये बात सही कह रहे हैं, बिल्कुल वेंडर ही कहता है, पर वेंडर लिमिटेड कर दिया आपने। ये वापस में रेगुलेशन पे आता है, आपने क्यों वेंडर लिमिटेड किए? जैसे आज इलेक्ट्रिकल लाइसेंस लेकर के गली गली में कॉन्ट्रैक्टर बैठे हुए हैं, वो आपको बता देता है बिजली का कनेक्शन कैसे होगा, वो मैं करा दूंगा और ये मेरे फैसिलिटी चार्जेस हैं। ऐसे ही वो भी ऐसे ही आप मतलब फ्री कर दीजिए। आपने उसको बांध दिया इसलिए कि यदि ये एमपैनल कॉन्ट्रैक्टर है, अभी आप रेटेड कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स की बात कर रहे थे, रेटेड वेंडर्स की बात कर रहे थे, जितना आप लिमिट कर देंगे ना उतना कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाएगा ये। मैं अभी भी आपसे कह रहा हूँ, इससे आप हट जाइए। यदि किसी की डेफिशिएंसी आ रही है, यदि कोई सब स्टैंडर्ड सर्विसेज दे रहा है, उसको ब्लैक लिस्ट करिए ना। कितने कंज्यूमर ऐसे हैं, आप मुझे बता दीजिए मंडल, यदि आपने कभी डिस्कॉम में काम किया है या डिस्कॉम की सर्विसेज आपने रेंडर की हैं, कितने कॉन्ट्रैक्टर जो सर्टिफिकेट देते हैं कि ये वायरिंग रूल्स के हिसाब से की गई है, उसको कौन चेक करता है? कोई जेईएन चेक करता है या कोई इलेक्ट्रिकल इंस्पेक्टर चेक करता है? सब उसको बिलीव करते हैं। तो यहाँ भी उसको होने दीजिए। यहाँ तो ठीक है साहब, वो तो रेगुलेशन में है, तो इसमें इसको इस तरह से यदि आप देखेंगे ना तो वी विल नॉट सक्सीड। एंड आई वुड आस्क दीप्ति टू प्रोसीड टू गुजरात कि उन्होंने इतना जल्दी और इतना कम समय में कैसे किया है। क्या उन्होंने कोई उसमें रिलैक्स किए हैं रेगुलेशन में? तो अपन रेगुलेटर को बात करेंगे। और डिस्कॉम में यदि कुछ करने को चाहिए तो करेंगे। हमारे यहाँ जो मैं खुद भी रहा हूँ इस लेवल पे कि जब ये नेट मीटरिंग आई थी तो पिटीशन मैंने ही फाइल की थी। मेरे को पता है कि उस समय एजुकेट करने में कितना लगा, रेगुलेटर को एजुकेट करने में मुझे बहुत जोर आया। उसके बाद में जब मैंने अपने खुद के यहाँ लगा लिया तब मैंने सबको ले जाके दिखाया कि भाई देखो इस तरह से लगता है, इस तरह से फ़ायदा है। उन्होंने समझा इसको बिजनेस चाहिए होगा इसलिए बता रहा है ये। तो ये माइंडसेट बदलना पड़ता है आपको कि नहीं ये नहीं है। अब मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, जिन हॉस्पिटल्स प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स ने उस समय कहा हम तो लाखों का बिल देते हैं, हज़ारों से क्या फ़र्क पड़ेगा, आज पीछे पीछे घूम रहे हैं कि हमें तो लगवाना है। और उन्होंने बगैर किसी जो आप बता रहे हैं इंसेंटिव, अब तो कमर्शियल पे तो अब रहा ही नहीं, केवल डोमेस्टिक के ऊपर ही आपको एफएसए मिल रहा है, बाकी किसी पे है ही नहीं ना अब तो। पर वो लोग लगवा रहे हैं ना, लगवा इसलिए रहे हैं कि उसका जो पे बैक है उनका 4-5 साल में पूरा हो रहा है। एक बात अभी किसी ने कही थी कि साहब उसको पैसा कहाँ से लाएगा वो, तो डिस्कॉम उसको ओन करे। अब ये कोई इंसिस्ट नहीं, अभी सारे पैनल्स में से किसी ने नहीं बताया, शायद किसी को पता भी नहीं है, पता नहीं, आई डोंट नो। उसमें यह है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया और रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया दोनों के डायरेक्शंस हैं कि रूफटॉप सोलर डोमेस्टिक के लिए जो लोन आप लेंगे वो नेशनलाइज बैंक से ले सकते हैं और पर्सनल लोन के इंटरेस्ट रेट पे मिलेगा, पर बैंक्स नहीं दे रही हैं। कितने लोगों ने उसको ऑब्जेक्ट किया है? तो मैं तो CII से पूछता हूँ कि आपने भी कभी कहीं उनको मतलब ऑब्जेक्ट किया क्या? आप ताज्जुब करेंगे कि मेरे पास में खुद जो लोन इंचार्ज बैंक मैनेजर था वो आया मेरे पास में कि साहब मेरे को दूसरा कोई आदमी बता दीजिए जो मुझे इसके लिए मुझे मतलब लोन एडवांस कर दे, SBI का, जबकि उन्हें ऑलरेडी इंस्ट्रक्शन थे। ये इंस्ट्रक्शन अभी तक मतलब विड्रॉ नहीं हुए हैं, ये 2016 में निकले। तो मैं ये जो आप बात कह रहे हैं उसमें अपनी बात ऐड करने के लिए और टू डिफेंड द डिस्कॉम्स, मैं डिस्कॉम्स को इसलिए डिफेंड नहीं कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि उनकी एफिशिएंसी ठीक नहीं है, उसको मैं डिफेंड नहीं कर रहा हूँ। मैं ये कह रहा हूँ डिस्कॉम के कोई ऐसा काम बता दीजिए जिसमें रेगुलेशन को वो ओबे नहीं कर रहा हो या उसमें डिस्करेजमेंट हो उसका।
सर थैंक यू सर। I think the idea was not to critique.
Sorry, Simran, मैं ज़्यादा ही कुछ बोल गया और ज़्यादा आक्रोश से बोल गया।
We should definitely continue these discussions at the lunch. But I think the idea was to how do we balance the interest of different stakeholders, and DISCOM also being one of the stakeholders. इसलिए I also raised the point: should DISCOMs own the consumers? Is this really viable? So and how do we converge the interest of stakeholders? We'll continue. We have one question from Zoom. We'll take that and close it.
Yeah, so we have a question from Mr. Kumaresh Ramesh. He is a virtual participant in Zoom. He has asked, a study by CEEW found that DISCOMs can potentially benefit from rooftop solar when installed by low and medium paying residential consumers. However, these consumers face barriers like rooftop availability and financing constraints in setting up this rooftop solar. Does JVVNL have any plan to specially address these consumer segments?
So let me simplify the question. For consumers don't have rooftop space. For example, Delhi has I think virtual and a group net metering policy. So as a discom, are you open it? I think again it's a space of the regulator. But as a distribution company, any response?
We had an MNREs had partnered with some institution, foreign institution, and they have set up a it's like a virtual net metering project close to DOSA, and for that, because we don't have any regulation, so that is being a very difficult task, how to do the billing and everything for virtual net metering. So we are going ahead with it, and I don't know about if somewhere our regulation department, our department has gone for this, some petition for virtual net metering. So I'll just see to it. But right now in Rajasthan as such, there is not an issue of the rooftop space as far as, but of course sooner or later this will happen. And financing, DISCOM is not going ahead with any financing modalities right now. Maybe, and we talked about some business models. If we come up with it, maybe DISCOM will do, but I think we will not go ahead with it.
Thank you, ma'am. And with this, I'd like to close the panel. It was a very vibrant discussion. In a dialogue, we don't always have to agree, but have the patience and respect to, listen to different perspectives. So very well appreciated, and hopefully we'll, build more consensus and converge our energies to really push the energy transition in Rajasthan and the country, of course. Thank you very much, everybody. Over to my WRI colleagues.
Thank you, Simran. I would just request the panel to stand up for a photograph. Thank you. Thank you so much to all the distinguished speakers for a very enriching session and taking up all the thoughtful questions from our participants. I would now like to invite Mr. Puneet Kandalwal, Head Utilities and Finance, WRI India, to share the closing remarks. Puneet is an energy sector expert with over 16 years of experience in rendering advisory services, covering wide spectrum of sectors such as electricity, renewables, coal, oil and gas, infrastructure and mining to the clients including central and state government. He played a key role in large-scale central and state-sponsored scheme management and intergovernment and interministerial coordination. He has close association of more than 10 years in Rajasthan energy sector. Over to you.
Thank you, Harish. A.K. Gupta, sir, Advisor Energy GOR. M.M. Ranwa, sir, Managing Director, Rajasthan Urja Vikas Nigam Limited. Valued guests and my team members. Good afternoon, everyone. Just now I realized that I am the last man standing between the audience and the lunch. So Rajasthan is my home state and I have been associated with the energy sector since 2007. I have observed that the sector is very dynamic and has evolved a lot, but overall I have observed that it is moving in a forward direction. With 21 gigawatt renewable installed capacity, 1.5 gigawatt hybrid solar only in India, 835 megawatt solar rooftop, and substantial capacity in wind. Clearly, Rajasthan is leading the country's RE efforts and committed to be achieved at the international level. Bharat, has rightly pointed out that focusing on renewable energy installed capacity won't be enough. Effective utilization of renewable energy won't be enough, but storage has a larger role to play. Rajasthan will surely surpass the target set in the policy. Sector stalwart A.K. Gupta sir, in our many interactions, has highlighted that Rajasthan has a daytime surplus of renewable energy, but has to address its utilization at peak hours. He has emphasized that not only battery, all the available options, including pumped hydro or combination of both, are critical. Sector stalwart M.M. Ranwa sir also emphasized the challenges of renewable energy in its inherent nature of being infirm and variable. There is a mismatch in demand and the availability patterns which needs to be balanced to provide affordable and continuous power for sustainable transformation. Further, Dr. Valavalkar, pioneer in the energy storage space in India, has sought attention on the role of transmission capacity expansion required, and this must be aligned with the storage capacity addition. Both pumped and battery storage play a complementary role, thereby reducing the cost of electricity generation, and the both are the need of the hour of Rajasthan. He has highlighted the need for urgency. Tirthankar has observed in survey that financing is still lagging in rooftop installations. Adequate facilitation is required for mass-scale uptake. Lalit emphasized the need for green tariff and highlighted the concerns of the MSMEs in the surveys conducted. So overall, a very enriching panel session was conducted by Simran with relevant questions to understand the perspectives of the stakeholders. Deepti ma'am emphasized the proactive role being played by the DISCOMs for rooftop, but still the challenges are there which should be addressed to increase the uptake. A.K. Gupta sir also has rightly put the perspective of the DISCOMs and the role which the DISCOMs are playing, as well as what the consumers have to do to increase the uptake in solar rooftop. I still see that even after 16 years of experience in the sector, I have a lot to learn and a lot to contribute and a lot to enable the progress on ground. I thank honorable guests, officials from state utilities, sector experts from the state and country. You have been a wonderful audience, both physically and those who are joining us virtually. I thank team members from partners, Bask Research Foundation, Customized Energy Solution, Confederation of Indian Industries, Green Business Center, IDCG, and my colleagues from WRI India. We will be happy to receive your feedback on the event and our report so that we can improve and contribute in an enhanced way. At the end, I would like to say that Rajasthan is very well poised to address the urgent challenges of the climate concerns of not only in India, but across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Punit, for summarizing it so well. And thank you all for attending today's event on Pathways to Rajasthan Clean Energy Future with energy storage and rooftop solar. We hope you found this discussion informative and engaging. We would also like to express our gratitude to our esteemed speakers and panelists for sharing their valuable insights and expertise with us today. Your contributions have been instrumental in making this event a grand success. A big thank you to our online participants as well. We hope that this event has inspired you to continue your efforts to a more sustainable and cleaner energy future. Let us all work together to make it a reality. The lunch is being served on the side. Request everyone to proceed and carry on with your conversations over the food. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.